There's Craig. How's it going, everybody? It's been a week. It's critical. I'm Mongo. He's Liger Busa. We don't have topics on the show anymore. We're just gonna ramble for probably 2 hours. That's probably being generous. And and then we'll see you probably in 2 weeks because for some reason they gave me Saturday off next week, but not Sunday. They're a bunch of fucking dickheads. But it's been a week. How have you been, bud? Ow.
Not too bad. Nothing's happened this week really. How have you been?
Yeah. Honestly, my streak of
Quietly.
good days ended, and then 2 days later it was back on. So
Been having trouble sleeping this week. That's my only problem.
yeah, when you mentioned that to me late Friday, early Saturday, it's funny because I was watching ECW with a friend last night, and he was like, "Yeah, I haven't been able to sleep this week." Wednesday night, I didn't get to bed till like midnight, probably closer to like 12:30, and then Thursday night, I looked at my phone. It was like 10:40, and I was like, "We're not doing this 2 nights in a row." And I went and I basically just stood in the shower for like 9 minutes, and then I was good. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's been going around this week. Feels like
yeah. I couldn't sleep like all night, and then I fell asleep for like 2 hours, and then no, I think during that time my cat came in the room and he jumped on the bed, and then I got up for like I don't know, maybe like an hour, and I was like, I'm going back to bed, and the cat came back to bed as well, and woke up, and it was like sometime in the afternoon. I was like, oh shit, like the day is gone now, but yeah, what can you do?
yeah, I've had a lot of days like that, especially back when I was like a teenager and
Oh yeah, for
I was a
sure.
little,
Yeah.
I was a little bit homeschooled. There were points I'd be up for like 2 or 3 days at a time.
Oh yeah, me too. Like I'd be up for like 2 days, and then I'd have like an out of body experience where I could like picture myself in the corner of the room or some shit like that. Like I eventually I would just be like moving, but there's nothing there. It's like a zombie. It's like I'm doing
Yeah.
things, but I have no real control over it. It feels like.
I remember like the longest I stayed up was like 40. Let's see. It was a little bit over 48 hours. It was 2 straight days.
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there doing my homeschooling work, and I have like I think I put Heroes of World Class in my DVD drive on my computer at the time, and I set it to repeat. And my mom, my mom gets up to go to the restroom. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and then I'm at the computer. She gets up at 5 in the morning to like obviously start her day. I'm at the computer. Here's a World Class still going. 9 o'clock, she goes to like fucking get groceries or whatever. She gets back around 11:30. Here's a World Class still going. I'm at my computer just doing schoolwork. And around like 2 o'clock, like this is like right before I go to bed. Mom's like, "You've had that on all day." And I just looked at my mom and I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's only what the fuck? How long have I been up?" And mom was like, "You've basically been at your computer." This is like, I guess, like a Thursday. She's like, Tuesday afternoon, you've been at that computer basically ever since." And I was like, "God damn, I'm going to bed."
Yeah, the idea of like doing that now seems
Oh,
like
Jesus, no.
absolutely terrifying.
Dude, that one Black Friday when I got like 3 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep and I was up at like 11, by like the time 1 p.m. rolled around, I was just like, you know what? I really don't think I could be 15-year-old me ever again. This
No.
sucks.
I I did a 24-hour stream in like uh, probably like 2017 or something like that, and I was like, I've done this before, no problem. And at some point, I fell asleep and woke up, and I was still streaming, and I was like, oh, um, yeah. So thankfully, there was no one in the chat, so no one saw me sleeping.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to get caught sleeping. Dude, some of those runs were like crazy because like summer of '07, I would literally, as soon as I heard the coffee pot going, I would stop playing Guitar Hero 2. I would come out, pour myself not a mug of coffee, like this Coca-Cola glass that I'm drinking tea out of right now. I would fill that with coffee, sugar, and like a little bit of milk, and I would just go back. Like that was, I would just keep myself up doing that, playing Guitar
Uh-huh.
Hero or KOC 2 or watching Japanese wrestling. And
Yep.
it's like, looking back, I'm sure going like a day and a half, 2 days without sleep on a regular basis that probably, not that this absolves any of it, but that probably goes a long way in explaining like the massive fucking asshole I was as a teenager.
Mm, right, yeah.
Your
Same.
body needs rest, and I was like, "Fuck you." There are Kobashi matches to watch, and I still have not full charted Freebird on expert in this game, and I still haven't beaten Resident Evil 4, which 20 years later I still haven't done that. But God, yeah, I don't think I could be teenage me anymore. It's just,
No, it'd be impossible for me to do that. As much as I couldn't sleep this week, like there's no way I could possibly stay up any longer than what I did. I'd be just completely out of it. I wouldn't even know how to explain it. Like I can't even imagine that these days. Staying up like a day or 2 days or whatever. It just seems impossible.
do you have the same problem I do, where like when your body's like, wait, we've gone past the limit that we're usually awake for? Um, you're in the Fire Pro Club Facebook group. I'm no longer in that.
Hmm.
I left that group of my own volition. Uh, so going into the 2014 G1 final, I was up for like a day and a half. This is like the last time I did. I was like 23. God, I'm old. I was just going fucking crazy on that group all night, just like fucking. I was just fucking being a menace, and it got to the point where like everything was like hilarious to me. Like I'm typing shit and I'm just like giggling like an insane person at it, and then the person's response to me, which elicits an even more deranged reply, is like the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, oh god, I get real silly if I've been up for longer than 16 hours at this point. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
It's just not a good
I,
scene.
I'm in that group, but I don't check it. I don't really get any notifications from it or anything. I think I disabled the notifications because it was like somebody was spamming like the refed or something at one point.
Yeah, I left that group because I realized I hated most of the people.
Oh,
Like, and also like I have a bunch of them blocked because they're just fucking dumbasses, or they're like just genuinely insane people. So yeah, I cool people in that group. Obviously, you're in that group. My friend Brandon is in that group. Booker is in that group. Shout outs to fucking Cease. Found out he passed like way after it happened. I went to his Facebook page because he hadn't talked to me in a while. I was like, I wonder what happened to him, and I was like, oh god damn. Wish somebody would have told
yeah,
me that.
yeah, that was
He was
really
a
bad.
nice guy.
Oh
He
yeah,
was a
yeah,
very very nice guy. Shout outs to him. Um, and like Donovan was in that group. None of these people listen to this podcast, but there's a few people. Phil Parent, obviously, who still waiting for you to fucking reply to me about coming on the show, Phil. Well, when we do the Fire Pro World episode, Phil, doors open. Um, oh god, there's some news this week. There's not like a ton.
yeah. Not a lot going on. There's a little bit of wrestling game news if you want to start there.
Is there is there anything substantial before I just talk about how much I fucking hate 2K?
Not really. I mean, there was a UPW DLC announcement on Patreon, which we can't even really talk about it because it's on
I mean, we
Patreon.
could, but yeah.
I don't like, that's kind of scummy. Um, yeah, I mean, it was an interesting name, I guess, and that person will have multiple attires for the different eras of their career. I'm being very vague, and I don't mean to. It's just that I can't go into details, but
Here's
also
a
there was
hint.
a
No, I'm not gonna. I had a really good hint that could actually be interpreted for like two people, one of whom I also think is a UPW DLC that hasn't been
oh
officially announced.
well, who's that? Since it hasn't been announced, we can speculate.
I was gonna say Wild Thing.
Oh,
That feels a
okay.
little on the nose.
Oh, right, yeah. Um. Anyway, uh, they also I woke up today. There was a notification from Patreon. Excuse me. There was the making of the Sandman's entrance theme, and it's really good. It's very close to Under Sandman.
I totally
Um.
forgot he was in this game.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it's probably like the best ripoff of rip off is a weird word, but like the best sound like of Enter Sandman since like the one that was in like Hardcore Revolution, which was really close as well. I enjoyed that
I
version.
don't think saying ripoff is like a pejorative necessarily. Like,
Yeah, I guess. It's just when I see a rip off, it makes it feel like no work was put into it in my mind. But I guess it's not a big deal or anything. But yeah, it's really good. It sounds like a lot like Enter Sandman, but not exactly. Which is what you want, right? You want something that's close, but not
yeah,
exact. It's
I haven't I haven't thought about the Sandman theme from Anarchy Rules since like the last time I played those games.
oh god, I had that downloaded at one point because I really liked the sound likes in that game. Like I had a mix of like Nova's theme in that game with Intergalactic on my computer at one point.
There's a lot of them that are really, really close. Like the Danny Doring and Roadkill theme's a pretty good rip off of oh, what was that song called? Super Bon Bon? Something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And the FBI theme's a nice little rip off of the Entrance version of Staying Alive.
Yeah. No, they
Yeah.
were fun. Yeah, they did a good job with them. So other than UPW, I don't think there's anything other than
Oh,
WWE.
Retromania, the DLC pack with
Ah,
Demolition and Magnum TA is coming out in September.
right.
There's a mystery guy in it. I think the Rock and Roll Express are also in that. The DLC is going to be $10, which you know what, $10 for 6 characters and some new modes. That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fine. Whatever. It's still not a very good game, but whatever. Um, so let's talk about the recent discoveries with the PC version of WWE 2K25
Go for you.
because you and my friend Dylan, shout out to Dylan. Hope you all stayed safe. Weather got really bad down there last night. People have discovered that the PC version of 2K25 is essentially just the current gen version with the island stuff stripped out, and it's very transparent the reason why. They're fine with modders, I guess, accessing the My Faction characters. They don't so much care about that, but they don't want them to access the island stuff. But there's still messages saying you need to purchase stuff in the island on the PC version, but it's not
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And like people are finding like the island arena files, it seems like.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like all the assets in one big arena, yeah.
And like this feels really anti-consumer, and this is the only thing that's really bugging me this week. You'll hear me happy about some stuff, just spoiler alert. But this really feels like beyond just the island being the obvious first steps towards fucking nuking community creations, this feels like they're gonna start encroaching a little bit more on the freedom of players on PC. And this probably sounds like a gross overreaction. By the time I'm done talking, somebody will probably figured all of it out. But like, do you remember with like 2K19, 2K20, one of those games where they made it like way harder to mod the game? And
Yeah.
one of the things people stressed to Patrick Gilmore in the brief time he was affiliated with 2K, and as of when I left Twitter, people were still replying to him about WWE 2K, and he had left right after 2K22's launch. Like he worked on WrestleQuest, and I think there's like something else he's working on now. And they stressed to him like you need to have like mod support, and he was like, "Oh, mod support is very important to us," or whatever the fuck he said. In the games, they're fairly moddable now. You see all the really cool mods people do. Blocking off stuff and making a console exclusive because you're mad that modders might get access to it and make it free, it goes a long way to explaining you don't care about the fucking quality of that mode. You just want it to be a fucking money sink like my career is for the NBA games. Because people
Oh
don't
yeah.
talk about my career being a fun mode to play. They make their character, they spend all the money to get the build that they want, and then they have fun playing like in the park and shit. Nobody fucking actually enjoys my player from everything I've ever read. And there were people that basically were 2K fans that also play the WWE games when the island was announced, they were like, "You guys are screwed.
Yeah.
The game that you had is not going to be the game that you have, and it's only going to get worse going forward." And not having cross generation community creations is bullshit. Just because you want to fucking rope off the island stuff, so those damn modders on the PC. Here's the thing. Maybe fucking make the mode fun to play. Maybe make it something that's not like a transparent fucking VC grab. The game already has like an overinflated budget. Like maybe you should just make a game that's actually fucking good, that functions on day one, that doesn't like fucking hard lock and soft lock for like no fucking reason. Maybe you should focus less on being like, how wacky is it that we got New Jack in the game, and focus on maybe making a game that like playing as New Jack would actually be fun in. Like these games probably make their money back on goddamn sales anyway. These are the highest selling fucking WWE games there have ever been. Think about that for a second. Like the games are selling better now than ever. That's also one skew across multiple fucking consoles. Like, so maybe that's a little bit muddied because like something like, No Mercy wouldn't have had a chance to sell as many copies as this, but that's a whole other fucking discussion. Like you have the highest selling games in the history of the series. Why do you need to pile fucking more microtransactions on top of it? Corporate greed.
Yeah.
It's what I've ranted about like almost the entire time the show's existed, about how cooked the fucking video game industry is. And it's finally come for our wrestling games. A lot of people thought it never would. I thought it would take a little bit longer than it has, but it's on our doorstep now. Fight Forever really wanted to issue or usher in like the microtransaction live service bullshit, and the game died for it. And 2K is about to force it down our throats with the WWE games, which is why we need alternatives.
Yes.
I don't remember if Sam talked to us. It was 2 years ago. Priorities changed about like mod support or whatever, but that game, from everything we've seen, feels like it's going to have a lot more customization options and offer a hell of a lot more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Support that game. Unless it comes out and somehow it's just a giant pile of shit, but even still, support that game, because I know some of y'all listening to this have bought M. Dickey games, and you can buy a game that at least is trying to be a good game. Um, and like stuff like Ultra Violence is going to give you a ton of ways to play like actual matches, like creative freedom within the wrestling aspect. We don't need these WWE games every year. And I've said it to a bunch of people. The only reason you'd ever have to buy 2K25 is if you skipped out on the last several games. Because if you have 24, you have zero reason to buy 25.
As someone who bought 2024, I can confirm that there's no real reason to buy 25.
Yeah, and like I read that it's like reasonably optimized on the deck, but then I also read like you have to turn FSR on to hit like 56 frames per second, and I was like, then it's not optimized for the deck. What the fuck are you talking about? But then it was like this person's running on high settings, so I'm sure if you run on like medium settings or whatever, you can get some performance out of it, but it's gonna fucking DDT your battery,
Yeah.
which is crazy to me. I played Marvel Ultimate Alliance for like 2.5 hours or whatever, and my battery barely went down. I played WWE 2K24 for like 25 minutes on the way to work, and like my battery was half gone. It's it's ridiculous. I guess I didn't really get angry enough to rant about it, but like there's a lot of like anti-consumer bullshit happening with that WWE game, and all I'm seeing is people like, "Oh my god, we got New Jack." Okay, and
Well, I mean, it started with my faction, and now we can see that it's
yes,
just getting worse with the island. Yeah, I fear for the future of that game, and I don't know. I'm already like there's mod tools being worked on, um, from Discovery and Tribute. Those are the two like big modding tools for 2K. And from what I understand, that they're not having any problems like converting stuff over for 25, so they should be available soon. But I do worry, like in the future, whether they're going to be available and what the situation will be like then. Because as I said, right now I'm like already bored of the game. But like when the mods come out, that adds a lot of replay value. And like I put in the theme songs, I put in the Titantrons if they're available, and it just makes the mods feel a lot more complete. And of course, like the arenas and stuff. But like if there's no future for that, then my interest in that series is gonna go way down. Like what's the point? And yeah, the community creations is just it's fucking terrible. Like knowing now that basically the PC version is the same as the current consoles, except for the island, which is like, hidden and locked and shit. Like, why is the PC getting the previous generation's community creations? It should be the same as PS5 and Xbox Series X, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You've got most of the creators, it seems like, of who aren't doing mods are on PS5 and Xbox Series X now, so all their stuff is being uploaded there. The PC should get all that stuff, but we aren't. We're getting left behind. And yeah, it's dumb, and it's, as you said, it's corporate greed all over the place. And you think like the way that stuff has gone most recently with microtransactions and like being added to games that where it wasn't needed, stuff like Suicide Squad or Gotham Knights and then shit like that, always online experiences and shit like that. And like where those games have failed, you'd think like maybe companies would pull back a little bit on that stuff. But I guess in the situation of WWE, it's like it's gonna sell either way, or it's like the highest selling. So they're gonna add it and feel like they're gonna make something off it anyway. But like it's awful. Yeah, you were talking about UPW and like having like alternatives and stuff, and I was like looking on every so often I'll check Steam for wrestling, just in case if there's anything like that goes up randomly. And I was on there the other day and I looked up wrestling. There was like a whole bunch of like coming soon games and with like wrestling in the title or in the description. And none of them were like traditional wrestling games. It was like, beat 'em ups. There's that Master Republic game that's supposedly coming out soon, which is like a beat 'em up. There was another lucha like Smash style beat 'em up, and there's like RPGs and shit, and it's like I'm just like, where's the traditional wrestling games? It's like if you want to do something different, that's cool. Like I'm not gonna stop someone from doing what they want, but like all these so-called wrestling games and we can't get like a traditional one. It drove me sort of crazy when I looked at it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And also, to be perfectly clear, when I say even if UPW ends up being bad, I don't think it will be. But we've also thought games were going to be all right, and then they come out and it's like, not what I'd hope.
I will say I will say something. I was in the what was it? There was something that happened. It was in the UPW Discord. Oh, so it was that article that was put up
Oh
recently,
boy,
which was updated. I didn't read the updated version, but they updated
me
that
either.
article. Um, so that did make its way to the UPW Discord, and I didn't post anything about it. But there was people like sort of like upset about it, and there was one person talking about licensing, and he's like, it's not confusing at all. And it was like they can use Aki name, and then the way he worded it was like they can use models of wrestlers who appeared in Aki games previously, like the same models. I don't think that's what he meant, but
No,
that's what
they
it read.
can't.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think he meant that, but that's kind of like what it read like, and I was like, well, you're saying it's not confusing, but you just made it more confusing. Um, but also like we're talking about like we don't think it's going to be bad, but there's always a possibility until you actually get your hands on it, right? Of course. But
Yeah,
like, and what I'm seeing in that Discord is the defense from people who haven't touched a single button on that game, right?
and they've already decided it's great.
Yeah, and I just don't get it. Like we've said it again and again, and I can say it again and again. I'm looking forward to that game. I've liked
Yeah, me
everything
too.
I've seen, and yeah, I'm gonna be watching it the whole way through and seeing what it's like. But like for these people to just be like, this is it, this is the game, this is the best game ever. We go through this every time. We went through this with like with the wrestling code. It was the same
We went
thing.
through this with fucking PWX for like a little bit until people started to slowly realize Dave was full of shit.
I just don't get it. I mean, it's one thing if like
Five
if it's
Star
the
Wrestling, DM Dicky
yes,
games.
but if it's one thing too, if like it's a company with a reputation, like obviously you can be looking forward to the next game and expecting something great based on what they've done. But there hasn't been anything from Hyperfocus yet. So for you to be like, this is going to be the wrestling game and stuff, it's just like I don't get it anymore. I mean, maybe when I was a kid, I was like that, but now that I'm an old ass man, I'm just
Well,
like,
I drank the Kool-Aid with PWX. It's why I refuse to
oh
drink the
yeah,
Kool-Aid with any other game.
yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that's where it all started with me too. I was like, I was looking forward to that, and then we saw what happened. But I just don't
I don't
understand
think
why people trust
UPW
it
is
so
going to be
more.
that. Like, I don't think UPW is going to be like a PWX level shit show. But
No,
there's
I mean,
always the chance like a game launches and it's not optimized for every platform. Like I not that that's going to happen with UPW, but it's always something I'm concerned about with like literally any game that I'm interested in buying.
you know what? It could be the best wrestling game of all time, but I'm not gonna be like super, super, super hyped or like declare that until I actually play it.
Yeah,
And
we need that demo.
that's just what I don't understand from people. Like they put too much. They basically become like advertisers themselves instead of consumers, and I think that's a really weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you see it with wrestling figures too.
That's true, yeah.
And oh, also wrestling related news. Retro Randy, who's making the WWF Backlash ROM hack for No Mercy, is also making an ECW one. I've seen screenshots of the Hammerstein Ballroom, and Jesus fucking Christ, it's an ECW game.
Yeah,
Hallelujah, praise the Lord.
you've shared that with me too, and that looks crazy.
I'm gonna sign up for the Patreon when I have a little bit extra money. More on that. More on that later.
He
Um,
wasn't involved with the Legends one, was he? Like the WWF Legends?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay, because that Twitter account was gross. I don't know if
I
it's
know
still
that
around, but
like Icotrex and Orson, I think were the two, and I don't know who was doing more of the work by the end.
yeah, like reading that tweet, I was I don't want to play that game anymore or that mod.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think that's all the wrestling game news. So we'll talk wrestling figures, and obviously, what was it 2 weeks ago? I asked you while you were almost dying if you thought that the fucking Zombie Sailor Modern Scale pre-orders were going to be announced by the end of the month, and made an idiot out of me because he announced them on Wednesday. So there's a
Yeah,
lot to talk about with this. There's a lot to talk about with the Ringside Tom interview. Um, so Wednesday, about 5 people hit my phone up, sending me Instagram sent a post by Zombie Sailor Toys, and I'm like, well, they're not going to blow me up about anything but this. And it was Bundy, and this figure looks fucking amazing. I did see, and I'll address this. He doesn't have a thigh cut or a bicep cut, which are fairly standard articulation for wrestling figures. And I think I mentioned this to you. I for sure mentioned it to Wrestling Figure News. I've hit the point where I don't think we need a ton of articulation on like the big guys anymore because I have the fucking Ultimate Vader, and those butterfly joints give you nothing. Like they don't like they look ugly as shit. They're cut like right up to his singlet, so it looks like his fucking shoulders are like sunken in.
yeah,
And you get nothing. The double jointed fucking elbows, you get nothing. The biceps are so big, so there's like a huge chunk of fucking plastic cut out, and it doesn't look like a human arm at all at that point. And so like when I saw that with Bundy, I was like, yeah, the way the elbow's done is it's like NECA figures and like the whatever the basics are called now. It's like a pin in the elbow, so
main
you get
event.
like
Yeah,
that's what they're called. You get if they're anything like those or the Super Seven figures or NECA toys, because I have the Rocky figures, I can say this. I have Drago. I don't have multiple. I have that one. You get pretty good movement upward, like a double jointed elbow, and you also get the left and right, like lateral movement. So he's going to functionally have fairly similar articulation. The thigh cut, I don't get wanting that on a guy like Bundy because like, what does he do? Like, what poses are you going to do with him that require that? Like,
nothing.
yeah. And so like, in spoiler alert, Abdullah doesn't have that either. But I saw people saying like, "Ew, he looks like Kingpin." Yeah, yeah, because King Kong Bundy looked like the Kingpin.
Yeah,
Have
you
you
could
ever
have played
fucking
them.
seen him?
Yeah,
Yeah, I said that to somebody. Like, if there was a Spider-Man movie in like '94, Kingpin could have just been Bundy.
yeah, why not?
And three heads. So there's the screaming head we've seen, the neutral head we've seen, and then there's like kind of an angry gritted teeth, kind of like the LJN.
Yeah.
which when I saw that, I was like, that's intentional or not, that's a great homage to one of the better LJN figures. And it was announced these go up March 27th. And in the post, he said it was Jeff Jarrett, King Kong Bundy, and then two lines of question marks, which led to people speculating. And I hate doing this because, like, some of it, especially because it's zombie, it feels like we're looking for a reason to dunk on him. Like, oh, he probably lost the rights to Brian Pillman. But if you go to his website, Pillman's still listed as one of the signed talents. Like, that took me 4 seconds to find that. And I said it to you, like, either they got bumped or he's just going to pretend like people fucking didn't know about those and he's just doing it to fuck around. He confirmed on Sam Roberts he just likes to fuck with people. So that's why Bundy and Pillman were, or Pillman and Abby were left off. We ended up seeing Pillman and Abby, like the little photo cards that get sent out. Somebody got their Series 4 and we saw a picture of the picture. And they looked fucking incredible. And then he did a Sam Roberts appearance where we saw Series 4 was unboxed. We saw the basically final retro Henry Godwin. He's going to have an elbow pad, which the deco sample that Zombie had didn't have. And we saw the deco sample of the Macho Man. Now, it's important to note that Macho Man was supposed to go up this month alongside the 7-inch figures. And I was waiting for the excuse. And it was like, well, there's so much stuff happening, like, coming up soon that, like, if we bump him to the summer, it's going to be an even shorter wait time. Because I guess Zombie figured out you should probably have a bunch of these produced before you offer the pre-order. That way there's less, like, wait time to produce the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how I took it. So the Savage figures are going up in the summer, but the main thing was, like, the 7-inch line. He mentioned having over $500,000 invested, which makes sense. Tooling on 7-inch figures is not cheap. And also, these aren't one-time use tools. It's not like the who was it, Raven in the retro line that he allegedly spent 6 figures on, and, like, he can't use any of that ever again. Like, who the fuck's Just Incredible? If he makes a Just Incredible, he might be able to get something out of, like, the shirt mold and the legs. But, like, he also said retail partners have picked them up. Didn't specify. He didn't specify if it was the retros or the 7-inch figures. I'm assuming the latter. He didn't say the price specifically, but said, like, well, at first he's like, these are going to cost approximately, and I waited for a smart ass answer, and then he said $1 million, and I was like, ah, there it is. He reiterated that.
The shitty thing about, like, not announcing the retails is, like, when they go up for pre-order on his website, and obviously you're gonna pay for shipping, and, like, let's say I buy one. I mean, that one figure could cost me, like, I don't know, like $80 to $100, and then imagine if they go up on somewhere. I wouldn't say like Walmart, but, like, oh, I don't know,
They go on, like,
Toys R.
Target or, like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then, like, either or, like, GameStop, let's say, like, I wouldn't have to pay for shipping, and that would, like, fuck me over if that something like that would happen, but to be expected, I suppose.
Yeah, I also kind of gleaned that, like, maybe Series 1 won't be in retail, but
Mm,
Series 2 might.
yeah.
I It was very weird the way it was worded. Um, he did reiterate people are going to be taken aback in a good way by the price. He also
Wait.
mentioned these are. Oh, go on.
No, I was just saying they're gonna be free.
He did mention Series 1 if everything goes right, and it never does.
Nope.
They should be in hand around the holidays. So
Okay.
something's changed. I'm assuming it's the soft goods time for Abby and Pillman, the shirt and the pants,
Right.
or the
Yeah.
pants and the shirt, respectively. Because he said the pants alone are like 6 to 7 months,
Oof.
which, Rosenthal kind of. I have a Power Town rant to go on too. Do not let me
Yeah, I
forget
know.
that.
Yeah.
But, like, these look incredible. Abby, the head that we saw at WrestleCon last year that has the tongue out, it's like painted where he's got, like, blood on his face. And I'm waiting until we get, like, the actual full reveal for him to see the extent to which like the blood is detailed, but if you look at the picture of the card of the Abby reveal, it looks like the fucking like blood is like wet on his head.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's like a really interesting, like I've never seen that. Like we've seen bloody wrestling figures and it's usually just like it's red paint. But it looks kind of like I don't know what they did. Like if they decided to use like a dark metallic red on top of red to get that effect. Like we're gonna this week we're gonna see probably a better look at it. But that thing, I can't think of anything more I would want from an Abdullah. And I also looked it up. He wears those particular black pants at Starcade 91. And there's also the picture everybody's seen where he's like holding the fork up and he's got his like one hand out, the left hand. Everybody's seen that promo picture. He's wearing them in that too. Because I
Yeah,
knew some people were going to be like, well, he didn't have the red waistband on those pants. Like, yes, he did. Yes, he
that
did.
figure is kind of insane. And
Yeah.
something I was thinking about too is like what I think is really cool is like the amount of like classic All Japan figures we've got. Because you've got him, and then of course you've got like from Powdertown, you've got Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody and Dory Funk,
Jack
and
Briscoe.
yeah, and you put it all together, and that's kind of wild that we have all these, those All Japan figures. Makes me wish someone would make like a Baba and like Tenryu and a few others. It'd be fucking nuts. But
Well,
like,
if
yeah,
you listen to
that
Greg Gagne, they've got all the old
ah
Japanese talent signed.
sure, whatever. Um, yeah, I kind of want to get that Abby and like get an electric chair to
Oh,
just
God, the
like
Chamber of Horrors. Yeah.
yeah, to just put him in.
That's probably not far off from what he's wearing in that match, too, because it seemed
Yeah,
like he wore the black with like the red waistband a lot in WCW.
I think so. Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's a money idea right there. And if you had access to like the old Wicked Cool Toys like WCW ring setup, you can do some pretty cool like figure photography with that. Yeah.
yeah, it'd be awesome.
That figure looks fucking like I gushed about how great that figure looked when we saw it Mania weekend last year. Seeing it in plastic, that might be the best wrestling figure ever. Like, goddamn.
It also like I was thinking about like other stuff that I want him to make, and like instantly like if he made like a Hayabusa, that would be like just insane. That would be like obviously an instant purchase. I kept thinking in my head like, what if he made that and like awesome and Tanaka, and you had like if you could get like Onita and you had like a whole FMW line, that'd be fucking nuts.
Yeah, like when it was thought that those two might have been bumped, those two being Pillman and Abby. One of my friends was like, the only acceptable replacement at this point is Awesome and Tanaka, and I was like, don't put that in my fucking head because if it's not Awesome and Tanaka and it's like two other guys I would normally be happy to get as replacements for Pillman and Abby, I'm gonna be so mad that it's not Awesome and Tanaka. Please don't do this to me.
Can
And
he
then
use like
obviously
can he use like the Abi sculpt and make the headhunters? That'd be cool.
that's what he's doing with the retro line. So I
Oh, is he
think
okay? Okay, yeah.
yeah, there's like the majors posted randomly just a test shot of like one of the headhunters. And this was like a month and a half ago. I thought I sent it to you, but like all he's got to do really, like if you reuse the Abby torso, you've got the little singlet shell from Bundy because Bundy doesn't have soft goods. He has like a soft plastic shell that goes over for the top of the singlets, which allows basically full movement for the torso. And it's not going to eventually sag and droop like a soft goods singlet. So immediately it's a better figure than the Mattel one.
I think you did send it to me, which is probably why that's in my head right now.
You know what? The Headhunters would be a pretty easy purchase for a 2 pack, but I can't imagine you do a full production run on them.
No, no.
I we got to talk about the Pillman. It's Cyber Slam 96, but he does come with the two crutches and a gun and the fucking like sunglasses he wore around the time which Zombie offhandedly mentioned. Those are like licensed. You
Yeah,
don't
you
have to
could
do
buy
that.
those. You could buy those online. I don't know if you still can, but they were on some website somewhere.
That Pillman looks fucking incredible. Uh, I put that thing over when we first saw it, but like seeing the actual like deco sample. I said it to you. I said it in the Major Pod group on the Sam Roberts post. This is the best series one we've ever had for wrestling figures. Like, if you ask me to make a top 10 just all time wrestling figures, I could make an argument for all four of those figures being in it. That Jared is ridiculous too.
Mm.
Think about that. Think about fucking how like insane it is that Bundy and Abby are the two you can focus in on as like, goddamn, look at how incredible those are. The other two figures are just as good.
Yeah.
Like there's no weak point in this set. It's not like previously I said Power Town might have been it. But
Yeah.
you look at Power Town and like those are really good, but like is there a figure in that set that's as good as Abby? Because like I don't think there is. I don't think there's a
No,
figure in that set as good as Bundy.
I wouldn't say so. I think the zombie definitely are higher quality, and of course, we brought it up before, but the facial expressions on the Power Town doesn't help either.
Yeah. If we had a more expressive Brody and a more expressive Hanson portrait on those figures, it'd be a little bit closer for me. But like Power Town Series 1 is still amazing. Like, don't get me wrong,
Oh
those
yeah,
are
yeah,
all fantastic fucking figures. But I saw these yesterday and I was like, yeah, yeah, this is gonna be a hard series one to top.
yeah. With the even if the pricing is like lower than expected, for me, it's going to be out of this world. If
Mm,
I was to get if I was to get any, it would probably be Abdullah. Because I think out of all of them, that one's just the best. And like as I said, like
yeah.
having all those all Japan figures is just like a crazy thought. So I'd really love to get that one. And as I said, I need to get the goddamn electric chair somewhere to put him in. I need to find one big enough, actually.
Yeah, because that's going to be a big figure. Also,
Yeah.
there are scale comparisons out there because Sam Roberts had the new Ultimate Muda and Final Boss Rock handy. I saw some like back and forth about Bundy's a little too tall because he's taller than the Rock or as tall as the Rock, and like Bundy was build 6'4", Rock at one point was build 6'5". I think he's build 6'3" now. So wrestling
Sure.
heights are bullshit. Yeah, all that fucking steroids packed the muscle on and compressed his spine or something. I don't fucking
Yeah, I
know.
think so.
Um, everybody like these are going to fit in better than the Power Town figures did. Where like Brody shows up and he's taller than Undertaker, which at one point was probably true, but not like 91 Undertaker versus whatever Brody. They should be the same height.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, these things look incredible. He said competitive pricing in the Major Pod interview. Like I've said before, competitive pricing would be anywhere from like, and just talking realistically, would be $30 to $45 for these. And I think and anywhere within that price range, I think I'm in on like at least one of everybody, if not two, because I will be a one in, one out guy on this line because I'm a fucking psycho. Um, these things are fucking incredible. Speaking of this scale, Mitch showed a render of Tony Norris, Ahmed Johnson, and I think the render looks good, but I'm tired of fucking seeing renders. Let me see like an unpainted prototype of the whole figure, not just the head sculpt of fucking Phineas Godwin where he looks like goddamn Rad Radford, which is also a major point against that line already. If I even with the hashtag saying Dennis Knight, if I can't tell that's who the fuck it is, like you're in a real bad spot. I do
I
think. Oh, gone.
I'm a huge Ahmed fan,
Yeah.
so
Well, a lot
that's
of us are
yeah, that's one I'd be interested in. But I worry that as soon as he shows that, then Zombie's gonna be like, guess what? Here's mine, like he did with the
in
retro.
series two.
Yeah.
I still think it's funny. Like a lot of those guys that signed with Mitch had deals with Zombie that were essentially exclusive for that form factor,
Hmm.
but carnies are going to carny. I have my concerns about Mitch doing a 6-inch line. I don't have any of his figures in hand. Um, you said they don't really feel like epics. I've seen people in the Major Pod say they feel like a slightly cheaper version of an epic. Which is not to say the Epic figures feel cheap. The Dynamite and Davy Boy that I have feel pretty good in hand. They're obviously still like PVC, but like they're really nice. Like there's no problems with the articulation. The sculpts lose no detail, at least as far as I can tell.
Hmm.
So they look really good. I have my concerns about Mitch doing a 6-inch line because you can't a 6-inch PVC figure that's that highly articulated with, and let's just be honest here, as many corners cut as a lot of companies take to make the product available. That sounds like a fucking like QC nightmare.
Yeah,
Like,
a lot of people like his retros, but also like a 6-inch line is a completely different beast, right? I mean,
yeah, there's
we,
way more moving parts.
we saw that with can't really say Epic, but like Cella, the Sabu, and that seemed like kind of a little bit of a disaster for them. So yeah, when you go into 6-inch, that's something completely different. We'll see what happens. I'm wondering if I assume like who knows if that ever happens, but like Rush was talking about a 6-inch line too.
Ugh.
I don't think we're talking about wrestlers. I may be wrong. But like, are they going to
Wasn't
be
it like
using
the Winnie the Pooh horror movie or some shit?
some shit like that? Probably. So I wonder if they're going to be made by the same factory or whatever.
Maybe. I was talking with Wrestling Figure News last night. So Zombie, when he was talking about having 500,000 wrapped up in the modern scale figures, he told Sam Roberts, I was going to bring like a medieval scroll and be like, Sam, here are all the companies making wrestling figures, and it would just roll off
Mm,
because there's so many of them. And this was a clear shot at Mitch. And I also understand why Zombie doesn't like Mitch. I also understand why a lot of people don't like Mitch. But he was like, just because you can contact somebody to license them and 3D print a figure does not make you a toy manufacturer. Yeah, no, that's Mitch. 100% that's who he's taking a shot at. He's not taking a shot at anybody else there.
yeah, definitely.
Um, but I was talking to Wrestling Figure News about that. And he's like, yeah, Zombie hates him. I'm like, well, Mitch made burner accounts to shit on Zombie's figures when he started Grapplers and Gimmicks. And then Mitch had all of his issues, like famously the Godfather figure, the smoke train, whatever the fuck. That thing was like falling apart. It had like obvious seams. If you move the arms, the seams would pop open. They were just not that the figures are well made now, but they were especially not well made then. And then there was like he had burner accounts for Major Bendy's too because he tried to trademark Bend Ums instead
Yeah,
of EM and tried to like snake the fucking majors away from Canik. So Canik hates him too. And then there's also just he's homies with the guy from Rush. He fucking signed Val Venus. He's booked Marty Skrull. Like I understand not liking Mitch. Um, I don't know that I'll give him money for the Ahmed, specifically for the reason you stated. Because like I don't want to be out like the 40 whatever dollars this is going to cost, and then Zombie drops the modern scale. Which, by the way, the modern scale line is going to have a name. It's going to be Heels and Faces and like a subtitle. That's going to be revealed before the pre-order. And he hopes that the modern scale line gets referred to by the subtitle and not Heels and Faces. So we'll see. Hopefully, it's a cool name if that's going to be the case. But my fear is anybody that Mitch puts out, Zombie's going to announce a better version of, and that honestly extends to retros too.
yeah.
Um,
Why
like
do they have such a like chip on the shoulder anyway? Like, why does Mitch go after everyone? Why did Sal announce that major ring in like their colors and shit? Like, what's their deal?
Sal is mad because of that video that Cardona did with the figures showing that they like fell apart and they were like low quality.
Right, which was ages ago, but yeah.
Well, according to Sal, remember that cost him the Marvel and DC licenses that he totally did not
Oh
fucking
fuck.
have anyway.
What else did he? Oh, it was Commando, right? He said he had the Commando license. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and that Matt
Yeah.
Cardona video just fucking cost him that. Like, okay,
Mm.
buddy. Yeah, I'm sure your uncle's Hulk Hogan, and when I come over to your house, he's gonna have to go wrestle King Kong Bunny, and that's why I don't get to meet him too.
Well,
Fuck.
if you remember, like he was like teasing Marvel and DC, and he was posting like videos with like the old Superman theme and stuff. And then didn't he like? I think recently showed he was like making some sort of superheroes that definitely aren't Marvel and DC. I don't know what it was.
Oh, Valiant, because that got discussed on the major pod group. Somebody was like, "Yeah, I didn't know Valiant was still in business," and another person replied to him with like, Yeah, Valiant doesn't really give a shit about any of its licenses, which is why or any of their properties, which is why they're willing to license it out to fucking any dumbass that gives them money, essentially.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Valiant Comics was a big deal in the '90s, and they also produced, to my mind, what are the greatest wrestling comics the West has ever seen with the WWF books, Battlemania, the Ultimate Warrior Workout, Wait Till I Get My Hands on, which I actually got at a garage sale in like 1994. That book is amazing. The artwork's incredible. But Sal is not going to be able to make any WWF Battlemania figures, so I don't care about his Valiant Comics line. His beef with Zombie is just if fucking his figures don't look like real Hasbro's. Okay, well yours are fucking 3D scanned custom Hasbro's, and they still don't look like Hasbro's. Who gives a
Yeah, I
shit?
don't know. It's a whole bunch of pettiness, petty bullshit.
Yeah, and like Sal doing the LJN style ring, but using like literally ripping off the majors like graphics and stuff. That's begging for a cease and desist.
They should kick his ass.
Yeah, honestly. Well, yeah. Also physically kick his ass, but also legally do it too. That'd be hilarious.
I
Um,
heard some people still haven't gotten their Trumps and oh, something else from ages ago that people still hadn't received.
you know, it'd be really funny because like legally he can't do anything about it. Somebody should tell Trump about those figures because you know he would file a lawsuit because he's an idiot and doesn't understand how this shit works. Except when you're the president of the United States, your image becomes fucking like public domain.
Yeah,
So he would literally sue this dumb motherfucker that clearly loves him.
but
But he
knowing
can't sue him because
Sal's probably gonna end up like selling them with like a miniature Cybertruck or some shit eventually.
yeah, probably. God, that guy's such an asshole. Trump, I mean, but also Sal as well. God, we've talked about it so many times on this fucking podcast over the last 2.5 years, but we need some of these retro companies to drop off. There's too much fucking product and a lot of it sucks.
It's crazy too because like I think those WrestleFeds Bulldogs, I think they look really good, but also it's like we don't need another Bulldog. We've got Bulldogs from everyone.
Yeah,
Um,
we don't need three of them based on 1992 either, and I don't think we need another Tatanka beyond the Hasbro. If I'm being perfectly honest,
no,
because the
no,
Hasbro is
no,
pretty great. We
we
don't
don't.
need three of them from 90 fucking two.
And you've got like Sal doing a Tatanka as well. He's doing it. I think he's not Sal. Mitch doing the.
$1 million corporation, and then I think he's
That's
doing one
right.
in tights too, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the white tights. So yeah, nobody needs that many Tatankas. Like holy shit.
I understand that some of these guys are willing to like do the backdoor deals, even though they have Legends deals, but we got to talk about that. It's God, there's so much figure news this week. But like, all the Fed has to do is take one look at what Mitch is offering, and it's going to be ball game.
Hmm.
And people are like, "Well, Zombie's doing Mania 7 Savage." Yeah, Zombie also fucking consults with like a trademark lawyer before he does any of this shit. Mitch doesn't.
No,
Mitch
definitely
just
not.
goes, "It would be really cool if I made WrestleMania 10 Macho Man," and then does it.
He's like just straight up redoing Papa Shango as is. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, he's doing comma as well, and
Yeah.
like dog, you you gotta hope nobody finds out about those. The Quang, that's a WWF IP, buddy. Savio Vega's one thing. You could make an argument. Like once you put the fucking mask on him, he only ever did that particular gimmick in the WWF.
Well, maybe he'll just take the K off and say it's a completely different person.
Or
His
maybe he'll
name.
say it's like TNT.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mitch is a goofball. I do hope for the sake of the people that are interested in his stuff that are for whatever reason, and I'm not saying anybody would be not justified in buying anything Zombie makes because it's your money. Do whatever you want. But like, I hope for the sake of the people that don't want to buy the Zombie stuff that like if Mitch does put the 6-inch Ahmed out, that it's actually good
Yeah.
and doesn't fall apart. Um, Speaking of doing bootleg shit with people that have WWE deals, though, Top Rope Collectibles announced the Diamond
Holy
Stud,
shit. Yeah.
which for those of you that are uninitiated, that's Scott Hall in WCW in like 1991. And I think a little bit of 92 as well. Um, so they specifically cited Cody Hall and the Scott Hall estate as being the reason the deal got done. And somebody posted it, as they do, on the major pod group, and Matt Cardona like was the first to reply, like, there's no way this is legal. And it goes back to the stuff like the majors have banged on Mitch about this, Zombie has banged on Mitch about this, everybody's banged on Mitch about this. You can't do this shit. You are going to fuck it up for everyone. The WWE, for whatever reason, has allowed this independent wrestling figure market to exist. Doing shit like this is a really good way to fucking catch their attention and screw it up for everybody, not just the people making these, but those of us that buy and enjoy these figures and would like to get more figures that are outside of the WWE farm, because while they own the majority of the history of wrestling, they don't feel compelled to do fucking anything with the majority of it.
Couldn't they potentially, like, obviously I don't know like the legalities of it, but like sue the whoever's like giving them the permission to use these, like this is like Cody Hall, because they have a deal with WWE, and be like, you can't go and talk to another company, you're breaking your, you know, licensing agreement or
Agreement.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that on, I think, the major pod group, and I think, yeah, you actually could get in trouble.
Mm.
And then somebody was like, well, Jake Roberts with Mitch, and somebody, like the same guy replied, this might not have even been the major pod group actually. One of the fucking pages I read where people discuss wrestling figures, but not wrestling figs, because that board is full of fucking insane people. Um, but they were like, yeah, honestly, Jake could fucking lose his Legends deal if the Fed felt like, enforcing it. And the guy went on to basically speculate with some of those guys, the Fed just cares about being able to make merch. So like a lot of these Legends deals are being done to placate fanatics so they can make T-shirts and trading cards of these guys. It was said basically, like, in some instances, WWE really doesn't give a shit as long as they have a deal, even if it's exclusive. And I'm like, yeah, but let it be known that people are making like really good money off of these things, and it will
Mm.
be a fucking issue. Like, let somebody do another Duggan figure and let him tell somebody at WWE he got like $25,000 for an action figure, and see how quickly that shit ends. See how long it is before you get another Jim Duggan figure that's not in the WWE line.
They've got a I've seen something like the unsanctioned Road Warriors that are being sold by a company that, you know, um, distributes a lot of their figures or sells a lot of them, you know, and takes pre-orders and everything. Would have had to pay attention to that. Like somebody would have seen that and been like, maybe we should, you know, try and get the Road Warriors back or whatever. Um, you think something like that's got to be under their radar or at their radar level or whatever the case may be. Like you can see somebody like Mitch or whatever the case may be, could maybe like they don't notice it at first and like they're able to get away with it. But like I think Ringside Collectibles, if they see that they're making money off like somebody that WWE doesn't have, then they'll notice it and be like, okay, we need to get these people back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's probably a lot more visible
Yeah,
if
exactly.
you're directly doing business with WWE. And that's specifically why like Animal doesn't have like the fucking like mohawk rat tail with the fucking shit on the side.
All right, okay.
Tom explained like they found footage of or pictures of Road Warrior Animal wearing the gear in these like figure 2 packs, but he doesn't have the full like mohawk ponytail fucking deal going on.
Mm.
And also beyond that was just like, listen, guys, some of these are going to be amalgamations. We're going to do what we can with these. Also, I don't know if the PN News was this much, but that diamond stud figure is $40. $40 for an unarticulated figure, and
Yeah,
it's
I
not
looked
even
at
like
that.
the big rubber guys.
Yeah, I was like, I thought it would be like an interesting purchase because that was there was a prototype shown of that figure with the original Galoobs and it never came out. And that's
Right.
basically what they're doing. So I was like, that would be kind of interesting. And I was like, I'll see what the price is on that. And I was like, oh shit, like there's no way I want to pay this much for it. I don't care that it's, you know, a prototype essentially that never came out. At that price point, I have no interest in it. And that's what I feel about the Galoobs as a whole now. Like I thought the idea of a Galoob line was interesting, but at that price point, and I'm just like I'm out. Like you're not going to get me buying the diamond stud for that price. That's for sure.
Yeah, like we've talked about this a bunch off air and even probably some on air. I don't believe for a fucking second that there are enough people to support the idea of a Galoob line, much less like multiple of them. Because there's this, and then there's the lubes by Epic, and I
Mm,
understand. Like, it also should be noted, and I'm not saying this. Oh, that's copyrighted music in the background.
couldn't hear
um,
it.
okay, well, I was poking through the Reese Dub spreadsheet trying to see something, and it started auto playing. But the Galoob figures were a huge deal in the UK, and that's also where Top Rope Collectibles and Epic are both based. It's possible that they're hoping that more European collectors buy these than American collectors, but like at 40 fucking dollars, I don't care how detailed the sculpt is or how close it is to the original prototype. You are asking the same amount of money for that I would pay for like Zombie Sailor Kevin Sullivan with the fucking snake, or like I think Epics are like $38 on figure collections, something like that.
Hmm.
And those are more detailed. They have articulation. And I like the Galoob line, but if we're doing 4.5 inch retro figures, there is approximately one wrestling figure line in that wheelhouse I have nostalgia for, and it is not the WCW Galoob figures.
Yeah, I
And
think I don't know how large it's going to be, but obviously there's going to be a market for creating those, essentially creating those prototypes that we never got. Um, it didn't work with me because obviously I saw the price point and was like, no thanks. But some people are going to be pushing forward, right? Because that's just the way they are. They're like, I didn't get these back in the day. I want them now. I'll buy them. But then I think again, I don't know how big that's um I don't know how big of a group that is. And then when you get into the original figures, are they going to be interested in those? It's one thing to release something that they would have got at one time, but when you do brand new things, are they still willing to hold on? And then I don't know. I suppose it depends on the talent. I think if Epic is going to make galoobs of, say, Steve Williams and Veda, I think those are interesting names, but you don't want to be paying that price for them for sure.
right, and also like these figures have to be fucking licensed. And I saw somebody like, oh well, Top Rope could make the Ricky Morton and Ric Flair unreleased figures. Do you realize how
Mm.
fucking expensive it probably is to license Ric Flair?
I don't want to think about it.
Like how many, and that's before you ever put down money on sculpt or card design or production, whatever version of we're making quote unquote action figures you want to say. Like, and I say quote unquote because these things are fucking unarticulated and they also are probably 3D printed. Like before you get into any of that, and also like painting the prototype in casting the prototype, if they even go that far, maybe they just do like the render and then they paint it in like ZBrush or whatever and send it on. Either way, you still got to pay somebody to do that shit.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, also if anyone was going to make that, it would be Epic, right? Because they've already got a Flay retro.
yeah. In the majors mentioned for Comic Con last year, they planned on doing the unreleased Flare, and then Epic announced the lubes.
Right.
And Cardona was like, I'm glad we fucking didn't do this now.
Yeah.
So, like, we've talked about this a bunch. Once the Hasbro style got overly like saturated, now people are branching out. I understand figure collections doing the bone crunching action figures. For a lot of people, myself included, there's nostalgia there. I don't think those figures were very good. I didn't think they were very good at the time, but they were the best wrestling figures we had access to until Toy Biz.
Hmm.
And so like when I see those Hardys, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna spend a little money on those. But I see the Galoob line and I'm just like, who kind of like gives a shit. And
Yeah, it's not a guarantee that every brand's gonna sell. Everything. People aren't nostalgic for everything. They've got to make a. I mean, people have budgets, and there's got to be an exception somewhere.
yeah, and not just that, but we've talked about it a bunch. Like, what's next? Is somebody gonna try to do like the Titantron figures
Oh God, I
without
hope
the
not.
little gimmick? Because at that point, you're basically like, hey, pay a premium price for like Mattel Basics from 2010 with like without the bicep joint.
Yeah,
And you're basically saying like, oh, fucking you can't use this with your Titantron, but we can all pretend because the amount of money to do the microchip for the Titantron would be like, there's no way it would be worth it. Like
no,
putting
no.
the fucking actions in the retro figures, that's so much. One, that's so much added development cost, and it's like you have to test the shit out of those mechanisms before you ever put them up for pre-order. It's not worth it. Like nobody's and not that nobody's going to use those, but like the majority of people that buy the retros are not like, oh man, if only Mike Awesome had the fucking like the Gorilla Press action because like that's cool for like the first two times you do it, and then after that it's like okay, going on the shelf. It like the Titantron stuff would be so much more expensive because there's so much, and then like you'd have to license music for that stuff. Like it wouldn't be fucking worth it.
Nah, they wouldn't go that far. I think that at most they would just like basically copy the style and that's it. I don't think they go to the extent of like getting the music and the chips and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
probably not. And like, are people going to do the vibrating San Francisco toy makers figures?
I
We've
mean,
got the major bendies. Is somebody going to try to do Flexums? Is somebody going to try to do those unlimited figures from 0203 where they had like the really squishy upper body with like the little skeleton inside? Which, by the way, the most playable wrestling figures ever. There's really not like a move you couldn't do with those.
there's
But they
some.
also rock.
I'm sure there's some like adult line that could do those vibrating toys. They were probably
Uh,
more nostalgic for the women that bought those for their kids than the kids themselves. Um, I still think there's an opportunity to do an ECW line. Like the only good idea that Sal probably ever had, and he didn't do it. I'm sure his would have turned out a disaster anyway, but I think there's still an opportunity for someone to do those. I think that would
Have
be
I ever
really
said that
cool.
I hated the sketch for Sabu that he showed the quote unquote unreleased
Oh yeah,
Sabu?
yeah.
Because it's just the original Sabu figure with the fucking the headdress. The god damn it, I always forget how to say it and then I mispronounce it badly. So we're just gonna say that I'm not gonna call it a turban because that's not what it is, and that's a little bit problematic. But like it, like the headdress, but it's like the original Sabu, and he's pointing, and it's like from the
Yeah,
shitty pictures we could see of that figure, it's a completely different body.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like
I don't know.
yeah, I was like, you know what, I would probably buy the fucking Gertner because I have the Dudleys, and I'd probably buy the sign guy because I have the Dudleys. Did he show Simon Diamond, or am I insane thinking that, or was
Um,
it CW Anderson that he showed? I feel like he showed one of those guys that was
I
like a
think there
mid-card dude
might.
at the end of ECW.
I think there was a CW Anderson. There might have been a Simon Diamond. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember.
And like if that guy wasn't a total piece of shit and he could have delivered those figures, I probably would have bought them.
Yeah, it was a
But
cool idea.
I mean, the being a piece of shit part's not even necessarily like I've bought WWE figures this year.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I
At
mean,
some point, there's no ethical consumption.
no. That's a line that would be cool. Character products. If KWK wants to do that, I mean, they're kind of like statues too, but like they were really cool.
I
Um,
mean, let's be honest here. The retro figures by and of themselves, if you just
they're-
go for a little bit more realistic sculpting,
yeah, yeah,
you're already there.
yeah. I think that would be like where I would draw the line after those two. Like, I can't think of anything else that'd be really interesting if somebody brought back.
Character product GI Joe style would probably
Those
put
would
me
be
in the
cool. Yeah.
poorhouse for good. I love those things. Those are my favorite wrestling figures. I think on a lot of days like that. That Inoki was my holy grail, and then Now Home got it in, and I was sitting there in the break room at work, and I was like, Inoki Bombay, baby.
I've got that UWFI Takata, which you said is like hard to get, right?
Yeah, he was telling me it was really hard to get, and then you paid like nothing for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Bye.
I told Nelholm about it. And he's like, "Where the fuck?" And I was like, "Yeah, apparently it's not like Baiyi." And he was like, "Oh, I gotta check Baiyi more." I'm like, "Yeah, you do."
Yeah. It gets dangerous though. You end up with a bunch of laser discs that you don't need.
I'm kind of glad that I kicked the Betamax habit. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right.
The fucking seller that told me he knew someone that had like a refurbished, basically brand new beta player, and he'd get me a price for it. I messaged him about that twice, and he never got back to me. And I was like, okay, it's just not meant to be. That's fine. I still have Hulkamania 4 sealed on Betamax, and I never got Survivor Series 89. I had the deal, and then I talked to the seller, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's fine. We'll cancel your order, and we can reconvene for the lower price later." And then I checked, and it's not there anymore. So again, just not meant to be. I do have World Tour 8990. It's not sealed anymore. I did open it because like the fucking shrink wrap was like just beating the shit out of the. You know, like the 1990, 91, 92 Coliseum videos. They were in like the extra big box that had like that fucking like empty part over to the
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
Yeah, the shrink wrap was fucking that up, and I was like, I don't like the way that looks. So I just opened it.
I uh I was gonna convert all my laserdiscs to DVD, and I started doing best of UWF, whatever year it was, um, UWFI, and then I was on archive and I saw the same thing on there already, and I was like, well, this is pointless because probably everything that I have is already on here. So I was like, what's the point? It was a cool
Those
idea
laser
anyway.
discs are cool though. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really cool to have, and who knows, maybe I'll sell them someday. I don't know.
I oh right, Power Town. I don't know why that made me think of Power
Ugh,
Town. So it is Austin Day. It is March 16th. What? So it's March 16th. And I don't know how closely you've been following along, but nobody has their Remcos in hand except for Magnum TA and Steve Rosen. Now, this is important. Back in November, let me go pull up the old Instagram here on my cellular telephone that is also essentially a computer that I use the internet on.
what
What
the?
is this? One of my friends posted a Road Warriors picture. That's interesting. Anyway, all right, right here. You asked for it, you got it. Well, nobody did, but after scrutinizing our most recent updated delivery schedule, which has not and will not change, and at that time, the Remcos were listed as coming in January, as were the Myers and Cardona 2 pack. It's now March 16th. Let's go to the Powertown Wrestling website and check the pre-order up. And yes, I know I bitched about this probably last week. I'm a little bit angry about it today. Just go to Powertown. This little doohickey pre-order status. March 5th, 2025. Remco en route, shipping soon. It has said that since the last week of January when the Cardona and Myers 2 pack came in. Now, we hear how Powertown has these really ambitious goals beyond what's already been solicited for pre-orders. They have missed this window by a month and a half. In fact, we have no fucking idea when these are actually going to ship. And this creates a little bit of a problem because it says that TNA and Ultras Series 2 are shipping in April. Now, if that were the case, would we maybe have seen, as we did with the Remcos, some sort of fucking prototype of these? Oh, I'm sorry, Magnum TA, in the same episode where he shit on Zombie Sailor and all the other indie toy companies, he showed test shots. He also told people that wanted updates to kiss his ass because there was the
Hmm?
one guy that blew up the Powertown Instagram wanting updates on his TNA figures. For as much bravado and arrogance as Rosenthal, specifically Rosenthal and Magnum, have talked with for the last 2 years, we'll say, it is kind of crazy how little they've delivered. I thought about this last night. Powertown Series 1 was solicited for pre orders 2.5 years ago. That's 6 figures. What was it, July 2023, after Series 1 had shipped, they solicited pre order for 2 more figures, which were Myers and Cardona. And then at the end of 23, they solicited pre-orders for one more figure, Kerry Von Erich, which is a redeco of one of the first six figures. That is all that is in hand now, and it took a year and a half for Cardona and Myers to ship. Rosenthal, we talked about this last February. Did the last interview he's done publicly with Wrestling Figure News about, oh, I couldn't believe that people were waiting a year and a half to get their figures. We put our money down up front. We cut our steel up front, and it's March 16th, obviously. Do you remember the date that the Remco figures went up for pre-order?
I don't remember, but it was quite a while ago.
March 8th, 2024.
Hmm.
So you mean to tell me people have been waiting about a year, or in the case of Cardona and Myers, a year and a half to get their pre-orders? What about all that money that was put down up front and the steel that they cut and all this other bullshit he was talking about?
Yeah. What happened? I have no idea.
And then all of this to expand upon by saying we never saw prototype images of TNA or Ultra Series 2. They were renders the entire
Right.
time, just renders. And I've talked with Wrestling Figure News about this, and I do agree that like the majors are a little soft, to be polite, on Zombie about missing deadlines, but I also understand as somebody who used to buy a lot of Storm Collectibles toys, pre-order timelines are fucking bullshit. After a certain point, it ships when it ships. They have played with kid gloves with Power Town for so fucking long. Like, oh, where's our 2-pack? And then they let off the gas after that. It's like they don't want to make anybody mad. I don't
Hmm.
care. Steve Rosenthal is not going to hear this show. I'm just going to talk my shit. The fact that they solicited all of these pre-orders, the only hand-painted prototypes we saw were the fucking Remcos. And if they weren't hand-painted prototypes, those are like the most believable renders I've ever fucking seen. Because you can see brush strokes on them if you didn't even have to zoom in that far. But they took, if you bought both of those sets, they took like $600 from you, and you didn't actually have a look at what the actual fucking figure was going to look like. That's a problem. For all the nonsense people want to kick at like Mitch or Zombie or Epic, those three specifically, because they're the ones that get the most shit, I feel like.
Yeah.
Epic doesn't do pre-orders based on renders. Zombie doesn't do pre-orders based on renders. Mitch will fucking post the teasers of the figures, but has gotten a lot better about only taking the pre-orders after he at least has a hand-painted prototype. So there's at least a vague fucking idea of what you're going to get in hand. Also, it should be noted, none of these figures are buying of themselves $50 fucking dollars. Zombie stuff, I think the highest I've seen him charge for the single was 45 for, I think it was Danhausen. Epic hovers right around 40. Mitch hovers right around 40. Powertown are charging $50, promising the world in terms of quality. And while I do think the Powertown figures are very good in hand, Series 1 especially, there's a lot of issues. To go back to my point, I don't think, Stan Hansen necessarily needs a thigh cut or Bruiser Brody,
Hmm.
but Luthez probably should for the STF. Luthez probably should for the Thez press. Vern Gagne probably should for a body scissors or a head scissors. So they're charging $50, like, oh, these are premium collectibles and single joint elbows and knees. So range of motion's not great. And they take fucking forever. Remember, they were fine with shipping the figures with the legs breaking because they didn't test the fucking prototypes. They
Right.
would have been fine with those being in people's hands and then having to fucking tell people, oh, sorry, all sales are final. Because Powertown has never been about making like quality products and fucking building a business. It has always been about old motherfuckers wanting to turn a quick profit and run away. I will almost guarantee this right now. If Powertown survives 2025, they don't survive 2026. And I was talking with Wrestling Figure News about this last night. How do you solicit Ultra's Series 3 for pre-order? Or Remco Series 2 or TNA? Well, TNA Series 2 is not happening. I can
No.
almost guarantee that. How do you solicit all of these pre-orders? And as the collector, how do you give in to those pre-orders knowing how long it's taken them to ship this? And also that you didn't see what the figures actually fucking look like before you bought them.
I
Like,
have trouble imagining any new series from them, to be honest.
I mean, Rosenthal and the fucking Don Robbins from Toys R Us, they created another company last year and got like some license for a Cartoon Network show I've never heard of. And the
Hmm.
only articles you can find about those figures are from like May, and then I guess they were at Comic Con. They could take the cartoon figures to Comic Con, but they couldn't take fucking Power Town. Interesting. To announce a fucking like a new company and like, oh, we got this license while the beginning of the death throes of Power Town are happening. Crazy. That is crazy work. Because now it feels like they're trying to hold off sending people shit, and they've got the money, so they've fucking made their profit. Now they're gonna have to actually spend some of their own money on shipping these things, and they don't want to do it. Like those MLW Galoobs, are those even gonna happen? If they happen, are those gonna be fulfilled? When are they gonna be fulfilled? How are those
I
pre-orders gonna be solicited? Like there's all of these questions in we were both very positive about the Power Town figures. Like because the figures are actually good. But it's hard to ignore 3 years from the announcement how fucking scummy this all is.
Yeah, I mean the origins of Power Town too. It's like you were getting a lot of wrestlers that wouldn't usually have a figure, right? It was like a big deal, in like all Japan titles and shit like that, and that was really the start of like an alternative, 6-inch, 7-inch line. And of course now you've got like the ringside, and you've got Zombie coming up and Mitch and stuff like that. But that was like the first hint of like something new, and it was like super cool. And look at all these names and shit. And Series One came out, and obviously they had the problems with the legs and stuff. But then when the actual products were released, they were cool, and then it's just been downhill from there. I remember this is the same company that talked about a lot of things like merchandise, and I guess they did release a few shirts, but they also talked about like video games and stuff like that. Like, can you see anything happening now? I don't. I see them just going out of business, and that's it.
Well, also, I was talking with Wrestling Figure News about this too. We've seen about how ironclad those fucking contracts are.
Yeah.
Look at the Saturday Night's main event pack for 2K25.
Mm. Yeah.
There are multiple people that have Power Town figures shipping allegedly this year.
Yeah.
I
I've it's what a downfall, right? Like it's bad that they started off with such high praise, and then they're in like the gutter now, basically.
and they beat the drum about having Harley race. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. There hasn't been a single Harley race figure put out by Power Town, but there's been three put out by Mattel if you count the retro that's coming.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to take any of this stuff seriously. And man, when that line first got announced, and it wasn't the original renders, not the ones that we ended up, being solicited pre-orders for and getting, I was like, oh man, this is cool. The idea is celebrating the history of wrestling. And like when I get really existential about everything, like part of the reason I still collect wrestling figures and I buy like the Japanese Blu-ray sets and like magazines and stuff is it's tangible proof that all of these fucking people existed.
Hmm.
Like newspaper articles eventually, like the internet's going to eat itself and like we're going to lose that stuff. You're not going to like technology basically imploding itself isn't going to change that. Like I have magazines to prove that Abdullah the Butcher existed, or these action figures, or the footage that I have. If in 20 years we're still able to play and watch any of it, it's the same reason I like video games that have like large legends rosters that are licensed. Like this is all tangible proof these motherfuckers were here and mattered.
Yeah.
And that was why I gravitated so strongly to Power Town, was that was their message. Because like Zombie didn't brand heels and faces as that. Mitch was never branded grapplers and gimmicks like that. Like nobody branded their line that strongly about celebrating the history of wrestling. And then like I started to listen to the interviews and I was like, I want to believe. Rosenthal seems super fucking carny, but I want to believe. And then I did believe, and now I don't believe anymore because we've been given zero fucking reason to believe. And like we don't even know who the hell they have signed. At least Zombie has a fucking list on the website of a bunch of the names that he has.
Mm.
So you have a big idea of who could fucking be coming. And like, I ask you this now, like, after all of this, is there even a remote chance you fucking hand Power Town money for anything?
I
Shipping costs notwithstanding, like just on a base level, like if Power Town showed like a Hayabusa figure, knowing all of this fucking bullshit we've had to go through, do you trust them to deliver it?
no, like I can't imagine buying anything from them at all.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. And like Magnum TA has done a wonderful job over the last few months of just destroying any respect a lot of fans had for him by
Yeah,
going on the Power Town post when people wanted updates and calling them keyboard warriors and telling them to shut the hell up and to kiss his ass for wanting updates on things you took $300 for, Terry.
Jesus.
It's not hard to fucking figure out why people might be a little annoyed a year in. Because say whatever you want about Zombie, there's still updates. They're not very
Yeah,
frequent. Sometimes they're a smart ass reply, but at least like it's an update. He's not he's not fucking doing the Sam Roberts podcast telling people to go to hell because they want an update on their fucking USA Sandman. He answered the fucking question flatly on the podcast about like there was an issue with the fucking tool that warped the arms and we're fixing that and we're gonna have him out a little bit later than we thought, which yeah, no shit. This is what happens. But like there was no smart ass tone to it. There was no antagonizing tone to it. He just answered the fucking question and moved on. Imagine that. And like, oh, we're going to be doing the gloobs and they're going to be cost effective. I don't give a fuck what you charge for those. It's the MLW roster in the year 2025. Who gives a shit?
yeah, that's just such a weird business move.
And like at this point, and I got to talk about the Ringside Road Warriors because I did open one of them. Um, Ringside has a line that now part of the deal is classic superstars. We're going to celebrate the history of wrestling.
Hmm.
The zombie line is focused primarily currently. I'm not saying Cardona and Myers won't fucking worm their way into that line somehow, but it's focused on like legendary figures. And I mean, Mitch is focused on new generation WWF. So, like at this point, do we really like not that like these guys are going to make everybody the Power Town have access to, but what is Power Town's fucking spot in the wrestling figure space at this point?
Well, I feel like a lot of the focus was like specifically, not specifically, I guess you would say, but like it just felt like an AWA brand in a lot of ways, you know?
Well, yeah,
And then going into the Remcos, but someone can pick up that, obviously, that those names if they wanted to. I mean, for some of them, I hope they would. But yeah, I wouldn't like to see those names just like disappear into the ether if Power Town goes away. I hope someone would say, okay, we'll take these names now. That's not really fair
we
on the
need a Nick
talent.
Bockwinkel figure.
Yeah, why not?
Like maybe the greatest wrestler of all time, and like he's doomed to only be done in Remco style.
Mm,
Just one modern Bockwinkel for fuck's sake. I also thought it was really shitty, like when they did the series one, like you could buy the association bundle of Vern Gagne, Bruiser Brody, and Stan Hansen. Like anybody associates Brody and Hansen with the fucking AWA.
yeah, it's not like they came with AWA titles or anything. Even
No, they
they
came with the
were
fucking PWF tag belts.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was like really grimy and like the NWA pack with like Kerry Von Erich, who comes with the world class belt from after they fucking left the NWA, and just that line. It's fucking exhausting to think about, and I mean, it'd be cool if one of the independent lines could pick up some of those names. I certainly don't want us to go back to where like, oh, we're getting a WWE Legends Kerry Von Erich figure because to be perfectly honest, I don't really like the Mattel Kerry Von Erich figures. I like the Power Town one a lot better.
Yeah.
But that kind of is what it is. Um, I listened to Wrestling Figure News and that Nick Storm guy do a podcast with Tom from Ringside, and I had like a shit ton of notes, and I'm just gonna boil it down to like the brass tacks because after a certain point they just start talking about other shit, and I just started to tune out. So Gary Hart got mentioned a
Oh,
couple of
okay.
times, not as somebody that was signed, but as somebody they'd be willing to do. The big takeaway is like Tom fucking gets it, and he's been a wrestling figure collector for a long time. He's been around the hardcore community off and on since 2008 was when he started at Ringside. So he knows what the community wants. He knows the type of characters the community wants. Um, he mentioned like in terms of doing attires people think of for specific events. If you can think of a specific event in your head, it's probably not something they can do. But it's a little weird because like if you show me a picture of like Ultimate Warrior in a certain gear, I can be like, oh, it's that show. And Warrior is a bad example because WWE. But like if you show me like Terry Funk, I can tell you like 20 different times he wore that gear. So does that still apply? Like some guys wore shit like all over the world. The fact that like my first thing I would think of would be WWF or ECW for Terry Funk
Hmm.
doesn't really mean anything.
No.
Um, he also said case by case basis so many times that if you turn it into a drinking game by 50 minutes into the interview, you would be dead. Um, they're also not looking to price people out of the market. And also, shout outs to Tom for saying this. He said he doesn't like scalping. So anything they can do to put product out there to water down the secondary market value, they're going to do, which is why the Road Warriors are getting a second run. And if that one sells out, I can always guarantee you they'll get a third
Yeah.
of those particular figures. Um, one name that got mentioned and Nick Storm went on and on and on and on about was Jim Cornette. And Wrestling Figure News, because they were like, oh, I'll put him with my Mattel Vader. And Wrestling Figure News is like, I'd like to put that Jim Cornette figure with the Midnight Express. And I was like, thank you. It'd be
Yeah.
the only it'd be the only way you're going to get Cornette at this point is if you get his boys with him too. And like, what a fucking what a convenient fucking thing because I'd like to have Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton and fucking Dennis Condrey figures. It's crazy how that works. But like Nick Storm said, like, oh, you might disagree with Jim Cornette, but he's like an iconic manager, and it's like you don't have to say shit like this. Like after a
Yeah.
certain point, it's not like you can disagree with Jim Cornette. It's like he says a lot of really fucked up, like not even like I don't put this, not even like accidental like racist shit. It's just like racist shit
Hmm.
or like homophobic and transphobic shit. Like, and I'm not even talking like stuff that you would have heard him said in the '90s. I'm talking stuff that's like on YouTube from the podcast in recent years.
I mean, the whole reason why you had to leave the NWA as commentary
Yeah,
was racist as hell.
yeah. Like it's not about well, oh, you could disagree with it. All you got to do is say like he's maybe the greatest manager of all time, and then move on.
Yeah.
It's you don't have to like quantify it beyond that, and that really annoyed me. They don't have a specific cadence for releases that they're going to announce. Some will be single releases. They like the idea of doing the variants, but it won't be an every figure thing. Um, there will be some pre-orders, and also they might not announce that things are coming. They might just do the shock drop, which
Hmm.
Tom said the whole idea of how they did the Road Warriors, where it was like the teases where they don't show you anything. He's like, that was my idea and it worked. And his thought process behind maybe not doing the announcements is people were really excited for a week when all we dropped was like a vague teaser. And now that we can do an in stock drop at any moment, there's like the excitement of like, oh man, if I check today, there might be a new figure, which I get, but the wrestling figure space is so crowded and so saturated right now that like you got to be mindful of when you do those drops because you can't drop like those Road Warriors could not come out like the last week of March because then you're asking people to not buy the zombie stuff. They can't come out Mania weekend because then you're cannibalizing your fucking WrestleMania weekend pre-orders.
Right, yeah.
You have to be mindful. Like Comic-Con, you
They
absolutely fucking can't.
they have to be strategically placed.
Yeah. So even if there is, and again, even if there is like a cadence that they've settled on, which according to Tom they haven't, they just wouldn't announce it anyway.
Mm,
But they are paying attention. There's a lot of discussions about names and such, and Tom is not the one actively involved in signing. That's like the upper management at ringside. So like John, specifically, I think. And John's been around the wrestling business fucking forever because he's operated ringside for like 30 years. So he's been around for a while. And so he has like relationships. Like they've done the ringside fest where they've flown people in. He was also at Toy Fair all those years when they brought like Terry Funk or Ultimate Warrior or whoever they brought. So he's got connections, and I think it's going to be pretty easy for ringside to be able to get a hold of whoever they need to within reason. Like obviously they're not gonna step on or cannibalize their relationship with WWE or AEW. So I don't know. A lot of people really want Owen based on that December '95 Stampede show. I do not see that happening. It would be great, but I don't see it happening.
no, I can't do that either.
Speaking of, I opened the Black and Red Road Warriors yesterday, so I have some thoughts on these. Um, my biggest thought is I've really grown to detest double jointed elbows on wrestling figures because, like, the way that joint is cut on Animal, you get no extra movement. It might as well just be a fucking single joint. And so that really annoyed me. And it's not even like his arms are super big anyway. It's just the way they place the joint, it robs you of like any extra fucking mobility. And the legs will pop off the ball joints fairly easily if you're just moving the legs up. They're
Mm,
just super easy. They pop right back on. Like they're not
okay.
breaking. It's just the leg pops off the ball peg. But it happened enough times that I was like, okay, you're going back in the box. Um, the torsos do pop off way easier than the AEW figures. So if you're buying two of the New Japan Road Warriors so that you can have both guys in both attires, that's easy shit. You just lean them forward a little bit, they pop right off. Which makes me wonder, like, not that anybody's buying these for kids, but like, if you were to buy one of these like 2 packs for your kids, like how frequently you're gonna have to like pop those fuckers back together.
Yeah, that sounds annoying as hell.
Um, because I was just like, I was moving Animal's leg up to see how far it would go, and just like it kept like sliding off the ball peg at like just random points, and I was like, I got his leg up way higher last time. What the fuck's going on? But they feel really nice in hand. The joints were really smooth. Like a Jazzwares figure, honestly, like a better feeling version of a Jazzwares figure. It didn't feel like to me. It didn't feel like the shoulders were as hard to move or as clicky as the Jazzwares figures. They were pretty like buttery smooth, which is nice. Like these feel really good in hand. It's just I'm starting to realize about myself that like I want as much articulation as possible on like comic book characters and video game characters because you have to have that to do like Spider-Man. Like if Spider-Man had the articulation of like a Jazzwares figure, what the fuck are you going to be able to do with it?
Right, yeah.
Or like if Sagat had the same articulation as like Ultimate Edition fucking Ric Flair, like if he didn't have the extra range of motion that like the hips and stuff provide, like I would be pissed. Like if those figures were engineered like wrestling figures, I would hate them. I would hate them so fucking much. But with wrestling figures, it's like these dudes are like real people. After a certain point, like I don't need or want or expect Ultimate Edition Steve Austin to pose like goddamn Spider-Man. I don't want him to, in fact.
Well, that would be pretty
And
it's a
like
pretty funny visual if you think about it.
it is, but like also with the way Mattel does their drop down hips, I would be terrified to try to pose him like Steve Austin or Spider-Man anyway. Because you pull that drop down hip down once, you might not get it back.
Oh god, I
And
can't get the visual of Steve Austin doing, like, the classic Spider-Man poses out my head now, thanks.
You're welcome. It's just I think double jointed elbows work on some characters, but I also just the way that they're done by like Mattel specifically, they look really ugly. Like specifically on like the bicep and forearm side of the arm, like there's so much plastic cut out. Like human arms don't look like that. Like it's just really unappealing. And like the toe articulation on the Ultimates, why do I need that on Yokozuna? Why do I need that on Vader or Big Boss Man or Bam Bam Bigelow? Honestly, like two-thirds of the reason I skipped out on Ultimate Edition, Bam Bam and Boss Man was like I looked at those figures and like what do those butterfly joints actually give you in terms of functionality for Bam Bam or Big Boss Man? Like what would you ever use those for?
Yeah, nothing.
And like the toe articulation, what would you ever use that for? And I was like, I have the original Elite Boss Man. Sure, the head sculpt's not as good as like the Ultimate, but like
Still a pretty good figure.
articulation wise, yeah, it's awesome. Like functionality wise, it's everything I need from a big Boss Man figure. I have the Then Now Forever '93 Bam Bam, and I have the ECW Bam Bam. Functionality wise, those are as good as I really need or want a Bam Bam Bigelow figure to be. And to circle back, that's why like when people were banging on like Zombie Bundy, and then when Abby got shown, like, oh, no bicep cut. I don't care. He still has the lateral movement at the elbow, so you can still do the headlock for the fork thing. And also, another part, and I think I said this earlier about Vader. Another part of why I hate the butterflies on Mattel figures, they look like shit.
Mm.
They're really ugly, and like the joint themselves, they're like that rubber, like PVC type shit. Which swap arms on that enough times, and they start coming in and out real easily. So they're not, they're really not meant for long term usage in that way. And like you have like the ones that are like really deeply cut into the back, like Vader's are. Like you lose so much of the sculpt for the sake of like these butterfly joints that give you so little extra like forward movement. Like my elite Royal Rumble Vader can still do a power bomb. He doesn't need the butterfly joints. Like they don't add anything. And yeah, I don't know. I was trying to pose Yoko on the shelf, and I realized like his butterfly joints are so small. There's no functionality there, and like, what would I use them for anyway? Like, God, it's dumb. Toys are dumb. I love them though.
Maybe they just add
Um,
them so they think they can charge more for them because it's like, hey, look at this. Isn't
100%.
this different? Yeah,
Yeah, this is more premium because there's butterfly joints. Okay,
yeah.
but they don't like for Steve Austin. I get it because you can get the arm back a little bit further for the stunners. The Supreme Sting, same thing. You get the arm back a little bit. You can hook the Scorpion Death Drop a little bit better if you're doing figure photography. But like, actually, now that I think about it, Jazzwares AEW Supreme has been pretty good about putting butterfly joints on people that need them. Cody, you get a little bit more range on the fucking entrance pose. For Baker, you get a little bit more if you're trying to do like the lockjaw. Kenny is Kenny. You need as much articulation as possible. Same thing with Malachi Black and the Lucha Brothers. With Punk, it lets you do the little go to sleep thing, and you can kind of sort of, because of the way Jazzwares does their butterfly joints, you can kind of sort of do the X. And even with Moxley, like you can do a better bulldog choke.
Mm.
So like Jazzwares has had better implementation of it. They also don't look like shit either. And I'm pretty sure Jazzwares butterfly joints are plastic. So that's it's another big bonus. But that Austin went up for pre-order yesterday. Not yesterday, Friday. Um, it should have went up for pre-order today. Now that I think about it, but you know, I I have a functioning brain. People at Mattel and Walmart don't. Um, I skipped out on it because I've found every single Monday Night War Ultimate at retail easily. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem for me to find Steve. I didn't pre-order any of the elites. Like I want the Albert, the Lawler, and the Muda, but if I don't have them, it's not the end of the world, honestly. And I have to be mindful because I do have like comic shop trips and the zombie figures we now know when they're going up. So I have to be mindful of those two things as I as I go through the next month or so. And again, if I don't end up with NWO Muda, it's really Not the end of the world. I'll just grab the ultimate from ringside, and that'll be fine.
I got the
You got right.
what's that?
You got ultimate Muda, right?
Yeah, that went up on Walmart.ca, and usually when things go up on there, they're gone. Like it feels like instantly. There's been like a few Monday Night Wars figures going up there, and they're like, there's a Canadian figure group I'm in, and they're like, it's up on Walmart, and every time you check, it's like out of stock. So I went and I saw Moot, and I was like, add to cart. I need to get this. And I was having some trouble with their website. It's been a pain in the arse. And I was like, sign in and sign in again. I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, it's gonna sell out. It's gonna sell out. And then finally, I was able to get in. It was still in the cart, and yeah, I ordered it. So I was super happy about that. Um, I'd love to get the NWO Muta. I'd love to get all of them. I mean, the 2000 WCW Muta. I mean, that's not my obviously not my favorite Muta. Um, but like I would still like to get that. But the NWO one would be a pretty big deal for me, so I'd love to get that too. Um, we'll see how it goes. It's not going to be possible if things stay the way they are. Then me getting anything in stores is going to be impossible because they just don't carry anything anymore. Unless you really want Mae Young or like Ember Moon, you're kind of fucked when it comes to the Walmarts. Yeah, unfortunately.
I wonder if that May Young figure, because it was a collector's edition, still goes for a decent amount on eBay. Because if so, you could probably clean the fuck up.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be a Titantron live figure I'd buy because that theme song was tremendous. Mae Young. Oh baby. Her theme song in No Mercy was great too.
Like the fucking weird like aerobics shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was something. um, I was gonna say something. I forget what the fuck it was now. Um, God, I really just I lost that. Jesus. It was wrestling figure related. Hold on, let me go to the
Of course.
Major Pod Instagram because it was something. Yeah, this was a wrestling figure heavy episode before we get to any of the other random bullshit that we discuss on this show.
Also, if I need that, if I'm getting that NWO Muda, someone's gonna make a Chono.
Well, there's the
Come on.
Figma Chono, but it's like a little too small.
Yeah, but if you remember, I was gonna get that off Amazon once, and it was on there for like $50 or something, and I added it, and then like they cancelled it, and then they put it up under a different store name for like 100, some bullshit like that. Really pissed me
Well, that's
off.
bullshit. Yeah, I would be heated because that's ridiculous. Um,
Storm should have made a Chono.
I wish Storm would announce the New Japan Pro Wrestling figures for the arena line. Honestly,
That would be cool.
like I would be a big fucking dumbass and rebuy all of the Jushin Liger figures and the Suzuki figures.
I I need to get the traditional leg. I only got like the debut attire because it was like on cheap on ringside one at one point.
I got the red and white gear, and then I got the black gear, and then I kind of chilled out on them for a little bit. I almost bought the white and blue one that was like a one of 300 or one of 500 for a Japanese website,
Yeah.
and I didn't because I mean I had the money, I just didn't want to. And eventually I went back on ringside and I got the all red gear from the Noah New Japan feud in like 0203, and I
Yeah.
got the debut attire. And I kept meaning to circle back and grab the green and gold from the Tokyo Dome, and then I just never fucking did.
Would be cool if they would do like a Japanese Legends line, you know? Chono and um Tenryu and Kobashi and uh Great Sasuke would be an awesome one to get.
Well, he's with Master Republic.
Oh, is he still? Okay. But they haven't announced like a 6 inch of him. I wonder if they ever
Mm-mm.
will.
It's
I think
been. It's
I
been
heard the
interesting. Allegedly, there's a fourth boss fight line, collector's line being announced this spring.
oh, all right. I heard there was some issues with the Vampiro.
There's issues with like that entire set, like just the
Mm,
quality control's dog shit. And it was dog shit on the MLW figures too, which is why I never took that series one out of box.
yeah.
Apparently Mads Kruger was like the one figure that escaped being fucked up, but like I think I've said it before on the show, it's really disappointing that the first Jacob Fatu figure and the one that looks the closest to what I think of when I'm like, yeah, Jacob Fatu. That one has like the QC issues, and it's far too late for me to hit up boss fight. Like, can I get a replacement?
Yeah, it's sad too because that Ultimo Dragon was like a something that I never thought I would have gotten. And that was a really cool figure, and another one that's just like had quality issues, and it's sad. I really wanted that Vampiro too, but that never went up on Amazon like the other ones did.
I had that set pre-ordered, and then it took forever to come out, and I canceled my pre-order. And boss fight really dragged their feet on the refund too. They're like, "Oh, we were all out of the office for the last couple of days," and I was like, "Motherfucker, you're responding on a corporate email. Just go to PayPal and give me my refund." You
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that Vampiro. Then that would have given me a bigger excuse to get the 2000 Muta and have them together.
Yeah, but that 2000 Muda, if you're not lucky enough to find that chase at retail, that thing is going to be
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah. It, I've said it a bunch on the show. We really are in like the golden age of wrestling figures.
yeah,
Like
it's crazy.
we finally have the stuff that people who liked video games and TV shows had in like 1999. There's like a
Yeah,
million lines now.
yeah. I mean, you think about it, there's like pretty much everything. Did you think that you would get like a 6-inch Vern Gagne or like
No, no, that was like other than in the classic superstars line where they were throwing shit at the wall. That was never a thought in my mind, honestly.
yeah, it's it's nuts. Like some of the things that we've gotten just in these past few years, like the retros from Epic and stuff, and I just
The
keep
Abby figure, like
yeah,
I mean, even you look at like how much ECW representation there is in like the zombie line, or even like Mattel did early WWF slash late ECW Dudleys. They did two fucking Sandman figures. Not that those
yeah.
were particularly good, but like they did two fucking Sandman figures, and like they did the RVD and the Tiger Stripes, although not the accurate Tiger Stripes apparently. And we've had Sabu figures, we had Raven figures, we've had a lot of like Mitch has a Rhino coming out. I wish it was a little bit better, but he has a Rhino coming out.
Hmm.
And I would not have guessed years ago that we would have this level. Like Zombie Series 4, you have fucking Tajiri and Mike Awesome. Both
Yeah.
had like heavy sculpt input based and paint guidance based on the reference shots for Hardcore Revolution because I went on the woman that paints the zombie retros. I went on her Instagram, and for the picture of Tajiri's pants, she was holding it up, and on the screen of her computer was the reference shot from Hardcore Revolution. The Mike
Where can you
Awesome
get
sketch
those?
that was on Archive. There was like a big like ISO. You could just get all the like it was like some acclaim dump, but there's a lot of pictures. Like there's pictures of the Elks Lodge because they did the reference shots the night the Dudleys left.
Right.
So like you see the shot of like the balcony or whatever at Elks Lodge, and there's just Bubba and Sign Guy Dudley having a conversation.
I wish I could find those because the only thing I found is like
I have
from like
them. They
oh
were on
okay.
Archive.
I'll check to see if they're on there. The only thing I could find was like from like ACW fan accounts with watermarked. And I was like, I could use some of those for like renders and 2K and stuff. And yeah, I'd like to see them again. I did have them at one point.
Yeah, I found it on like Archive 4 or 5 years ago because that Extreme Collector account on Instagram was like, "Oh, I've
Yeah.
acquired all the images." I messaged Freem about that, and I was like, it's really weird that he's wording this like he paid for it. And Freem was like, yeah, that's crazy because you can just find all of that stuff. And he told me like vaguely what to search, and like not for nothing. There's some great pictures. Like I did not like Wild Bill Wiles at all, but I found out he was photographed for the first game wearing a Black Flag T-shirt, and I was like,
Yeah, that's
that's my
right.
guy. And there's a lot of people that got really in their own like fucking bag about the Don Marie and Francine reference pictures, which you know they are
Mm.
what they are. Um, but it's really cool because I think one of the files in that dump, if my 2012 Toshiba laptop would stop running like a fucking asshole, um, I think it had like the fucking Pocket Strategy Guide, and I did not know that was a thing they were still doing in 2000.
Okay.
And just like a ton of different assets for like ECW. And man, those games are not good.
No.
I'll be
No.
honest with you, they're not good at all. But I have such like nostalgia for them, and seeing kind of like the behind the scenes, the how the sausage was made. That's that's so fucking cool. Like I'm pretty sure for the Carino file and Anarchy Rules, it's literally just headshots. They didn't
Mm.
do any like full body shots for him. But also, why would you, right? They only updated his head. It's not like they
Yeah.
gave him his fucking updated ring gear. It's like blonde blade mark forehead Steve Carino on top of the singlet. So
What wasn't the Black Flag shirt actually in the beta of Hardcore Revolution?
I would believe it. I
Remember that
haven't
one? The one that came out was just basically Attitude with still some of the old models and stuff.
yeah, like you had Sable's model, but it was Rhino's voice.
That was like the best thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Was it Jazz's model but Undertaker's voice? Like, god damn. I mean, it makes perfect sense. That game comes out in February. Attitude comes out in like July, August. I mean, they
Yeah.
they push out the fucking Dreamcast version. What was that? September, October?
Yeah, they got them out super quick, and I mean, in one way you can't blame them for it, but like another way, it's like holy shit, like it's just the same game. It really is.
And then like Anarchy Rules is like, I've heard people say like, well, they changed the gameplay for the better in Anarchy Rules. No, they didn't. It's functionally the same fucking game.
Yeah,
There's some simplified like move commands, and that's great, but like it's functionally the same goddamn game just with a bunch of stupid match types that I love.
yeah, they got really weird with those match types.
The octagon cage match, which I thought was like that, and the table match when I first got that game confused the shit out of me because I thought the tables match was you break a table, you win, but the table
Yeah,
kept regenerating, and I was like, what the It's
yeah.
just a tables match with a fucking pinfall.
That game was like, are you guys still watching ECW? I don't know. 'Cause the stuff you're adding is very strange.
I I think I like Anarchy Rules better just because of like the wackiness, because like there was no reason for there to be an Inferno match in an ECW game, but there was an Inferno match in the ECW game.
Right? Wasn't it called Brimstone?
Yeah, and there was no
Yeah.
reason for there to be a fucking dumpster match.
No.
And then true to like form, when Acclaim rips off the backstage stuff from Mayhem and SmackDown, like they do it in the most Acclaim way possible, where it's like it's just the one area.
Mm.
Prototype Backstage Assault, except Anarchy Rules is the much better game. Um, God, that might be the only game I can say that about.
Yeah, maybe.
But like, I have such fond memories of my mom taking me to Walmart the day after Hardcore Revolution came out. I don't know what, probably like a snow day or something. I've told the story. I don't care. Um, and getting Hardcore Revolution and then seeing my first episode of TNN that night. And like that was right after the figures had hit Walmart. So like I didn't just have Sabu anymore. I had Taz and Rob Van Dam. And then over the next few months, like I got all of the series except for like Shane Douglas, Bubba, and Devon. And then like some point in like later 2000, we went to Dollar General when it used to be on Main Street here. And just randomly, I found Shane Douglas and Devon Dudley sitting there, and I was like, "Do they have Bubba? I need to finish Series One." And they did, and I didn't end up getting Bubba Dudley until like 2019 or whenever it was that I At one point, I decided I'm going to fucking finally have one of everybody in that line. I'm not going to do the stupid repaints like yellow tights Chris Candido or the fucking purple shirt balls Mahoney where the shirt says Mahoney because that's fucking dumb. I don't need that.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting one of everybody. I finished the roster. Now, to be perfectly clear, I have all three Sabus. I think I have two of the RVDs. The only reason I don't have the ring RVD anymore was in like '01 before he got a Titantron figure. I may or may not have like took apart the San Francisco Toy Makers one and tried to like gimmick the head so I could put it on a Titantron body. Very stupid child. Um, but like I love that line and like so when I see those figures or I see like Hardcore Revolution, like I have a sealed copy of Hardcore Revolution for the Game Boy that I bought during the pandemic because it was fucking retail price on eBay. It was $29.99. I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. But like I just it's a fun time to look back on in life because I'd just gotten back into wrestling after not really watching it for a lot of like '99.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing this podcast right now if I don't watch ECW when I'm 8 years old, almost 9. It's a fucking that's a sentence you could say out loud. But God, imagine if I was one of those people that just stopped. Like I didn't watch wrestling anymore after second grade. Then I got back into it in like 2014. Imagine what kind of person I'd be right now. Oh Lord, I've been watching a lot of ECW. It's been very enjoyable. There's aspects of the product obviously that have aged like fucking milk,
Right.
but I it's easier for me to take ECW in the context of its time than it is to take the Attitude Era stuff because like a lot of the really weird sexual stuff with Vince reads very differently now than it did before, and it didn't read particularly well before.
I think
And like,
also too with ECW, it's like it's not as it's a funny word to say, but it's not as extreme as the Attitude Era was for WWF. It's like WWF, it was like so over the top and in your face.
yeah, it was Jerry Springer.
Yeah, and in ECW, it was just like more naturally part of the show, if that makes sense.
Yeah, every like all of the stories and stuff aside from like the Dreamer Raven Beulah Kimona thing, that was stupid.
Yeah.
Everything felt pretty grounded. Like the
Hmm.
shit could actually happen. And
Yeah,
that's not the fucking case with like any era of the WWF. It's so cartoony and over the top and honestly hokey in a lot of ways.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
ECW also had better actual wrestling too. So
Oh
like
yeah.
I was
Like
watching the Hoovy and Ray match from Lost Battalion Hall last night. That was the last episode I watched before I went to bed. And like Ray does that Frankensteiner where he jumps from the top rope while Hoovy's on the apron. And when he did that, I went, oh, it's so hard to fucking figure out why the people that had access to this thought this was the best wrestling on the planet in 1996.
yeah.
Just can't figure it out. And they have better storylines, and their storylines, although it's wrestling, it's a work, so by its very nature, none of this is real. Their storylines weren't goddamn insulting in the way that like early '96, we're still doing the Dungeon of Doom, and we're getting like the early stages of the fucking loose cannon, and Hogan is fucking just running wild all over Nitro and making the show super difficult to watch after a certain point. And in the WWF, like early '96 WWF is so weird because they're still holding on to a lot of like '95 baggage, but like Diesel's edgy now, and he flips the Undertaker off at the Royal Rumble, and that's like that's the thing that sets the Mania program in motion. It's not him fucking busting in on Taker's promo after the In Your House. It's him flipping Taker off, which they censor because, obviously. And they're doing the Undertaker stuff where Diesel looks in the fucking coffin and there's Diesel. I'm like, oh my God. In
All
in
because he flipped him off.
ECW, yeah, yeah, really, like that's the worst thing. Well, Undertaker's a conservative, so yeah, that is probably the worst thing you could do to a conservative in 1996.
That's like his form of road rage. It's like you flip me off, I'm gonna put you in a coffin, or have a dummy of you in a coffin.
You flipped me off. I'm gonna fucking get up from your finish 3 times at WrestleMania. I do love that match though because like Nash does the fucking jackknife and he doesn't pin Taker. He just like steps back like, come on, I know what you're gonna do. Get up. Taker gets up, Nash does it to him again. Like, all right, yeah, try it again. It's like
Yeah,
the
it's been
coolest Kevin Nash ever is in the middle of a match. He's just like, I've read your fucking book, buddy.
yeah, I haven't seen that match in years.
It's probably been a few years for me too. The last time I rewatched Mania 12, my takeaway from it is, God, this show sucks.
Yeah, I watched it live. I
I did
taped
too.
it at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching the tape back in like '02, and my dad, who's a total piece of shit, he also hated wrestling. Uh, he kept coming back out because they were using the OJ footage. He just thought that shit was funny. And
Hmm.
then he saw the Piper and Goldust part, and he saw like when Piper rips the shit off of Goldust, and just like left the room immediately and said a lot of words about Goldust that I'm not going to repeat on the air because just fucking
Hmm.
imagine being that stupid. Um, but I remember watching it when I was a kid, and like there's like a fucking contingent of fans that have convinced themselves that Iron Man match is a great match because like it's 60 minutes. Yeah, it's 60 minutes and nothing fucking happens.
I remember liking
And
it when I was a kid, but I haven't had like the patience to go back and watch it.
oh yeah, no, well here's the thing. I loved that match when I was a kid. Like again, I dug the fucking VHS out in 2002 and like just I watched that tape so many fucking times, like our pay-per-view recording of it. And like I watched it again like 5 years ago was the first time I'd seen it in years. And my friend and I were just sitting there like, God, can they please just fucking do something? It's not like a 60-minute match where they're like building to anything. They're literally just doing fucking moves until like the last 15 minutes.
Mm.
None of it matters. It's just like fucking they're just jacking off. And like it's not particularly fun to watch. Not that I guess watching people jack off would be entertaining at any point, but like oh, it's such a meandering fucking match. And then I watched it a couple of years ago, right around the time of the new gen crowdfund. I was watching a bunch of like 94, 95, 96 WWF just anyway. And I sat through that show and like that main event at the end of that show, if I was a hardcore WWF fan, that show would have fucking killed me off.
I think it's pretty obvious the best point of that show was the Warrior squash.
Yeah, yeah, it's the best Triple H match.
Yeah.
And if I ever in this journey we call life, if I ever meet Triple H, I'm gonna look him in the eyes and tell him that's the fucking best match.
When they announce when Triple H comes out and this theme starts, you hear like a buzz in the crowd because they know it's obviously the Warrior match. And like I remember having like the same reaction as a kid, being like, "Oh, it's a Warrior, he's back, this is it." And it was just, I mean, it was what you wanted from Warrior that in that match specifically. Kicked out of the pedigree, hit a shit one in like a minute. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, like for context, that's the first exposure I had to Warrior like being active on TV.
Hmm.
So like I've seen the fucking hype video for him that they did. I've seen him on Coliseum videos. I'd seen him versus Hogan at Mania 6 by this point. I'd seen a bunch of other stuff with him. Like I rented the like Ultimate Warrior Coliseum videos. And like I didn't like Triple H. Some things never fucking change. And like that was the coolest part of that whole show because like what else was there? I ask humbly, what else is there on that show? The
I'm
fucking
trying to.
implosion of goddamn Camp Cornette? Who gives a
Yeah,
shit?
yeah, it was a very weak
Like,
card, sure.
people like to talk about those Savio Vega and Steve Austin matches from '96, and like, that one at Mania really fucking ain't much.
No,
You're really like, other than the fucking Piper Goldust thing in Warrior and Triple H, what do you have on that show? That's like
the
fucking that in the main event. That's like 80% of the show.
the other like newsworthy thing is the logo on the mat because they never did
Yeah,
anything like that. And I was like, "What? This is strange."
I remember we all thought like I don't know why I remember this specifically, but watching it, everybody in my house like, oh, that's really cool. They put the fucking thing on the mat, and then that was the first year they did the WrestleMania winner, and you get a piece of the mat.
Yeah,
So like the plaque thing, which I have the Cena one from '26. I bought in late 2023 because I was a little bit depressed for reasons that if you're a long time listener of the show, you'll probably remember. And like my holy grail for those is honestly the Austin one from 17. But I do not make enough money to buy that thing if it fucking hits eBay. So I will admire it from afar. Um, what a what an interesting like merchandising concept too. Also, like
It's a neat idea.
yeah, and they do them for a few years, and then it feels like they just like go away. And now it looks like they do them for every show. And I don't know that I need, like AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes like an autographed plaque from their match at Backlash last year, even if I thought that match was excellent. Um, it just feels really strange to me. Like, why are we doing these commemorative things for every moment? But yeah, like I remember Retromania posted something about this is like years ago on Twitter about that match, and I was like, yeah, honestly, I thought this match kind of sucked. They don't really do anything. And somebody replied to me with like, oh, it's almost like they were building a 60-minute match. They weren't building anything. They were literally killing time the entire fucking match. Like the whole idea was they're going to go 60 and then do the sudden death overtime, which by the way fucking taxes the credibility of that whole fucking stipulation like right out of the gate. It's kind of like the Hell in a Cell, nobody can get out, and then they do it in the first match, but that match rules. Like
Yeah.
you're never going to hear me bitch about that. The first Hell in a Cell match is like one of the best matches ever. The WrestleMania 12 main event is that's the bottom tier like WrestleMania main event, at least bottom tier for like the WrestleManias I care to talk about. Honestly, after 30, I really don't have a strong opinion about like most of those shows. Like 32 is one of the worst shows I've ever seen, but I don't have that
Which one
like
was that?
viscerally like Dallas the first time.
Okay, I was there.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, the thing I most remember about that show was um The Rock coming out, and then the main event where nobody in the building liked that match.
They fucking did the shit where they muted the crowd audio when Roman's music hit and they booed him.
It was just like there was nobody. Either people weren't paying attention and were bored, or they were just like booing and like saying, this sucks and boring and shit like that. And I remember after was it that one? I think it was that one. After it was over, I just sat there for a while and just looked at all the garbage around the place because there was like loads of it. And yeah, people really, really hated that shit. Oh, the other thing I remember from that show was that the scanner wasn't working for the tickets, and so people were having trouble getting in. Somehow, me and my friend were able to get in no problem. I don't know how, but like after us, it stopped working, and there was like talk of like people were passing out in the heat outside.
Yeah, that's a concern of mine for All In actually, because
Yeah,
that's going to be like the middle of summer, and mm, my friend and I were looking more seriously like the hotels and stuff for that. And during Revolution, he had kind of given me like 12 minutes of reasons why, like, oh, it's going to be really hot and all this shit. And I'm like, yeah, but Kenny versus Okada. And then, like, we were talking about finding like the hotel and stuff last night. In the back of my mind, it's like, yeah, we're going to be outside that fucking stadium for hours waiting to get in.
yeah. I
It's
don't
going to
know
be
how.
brutal the whole week.
I can't remember how long we had to wait to get in there. Usually, I'm always in like somehow I'm always feel like I'm close to the front when I get in when I would get into the buildings for WrestleMania. I don't know how, but I was never like far, far, far in the back or anything like that. Got pretty lucky.
There was a point where like going to Mania was like my be all end all as a wrestling fan, and then I just was like, ugh, I
It was
hate this
it wa-
company.
it was for me. Like I was working and I was saying to my friend, I was like, we could actually go to WrestleMania. This was Rock and Cena in New York, and I was like, we should do this. So we went to that, and we went to like the Dragon Gate USA shows on the weekend, that weekend in Shimmer and Chikara with Liga in the main event. That's where I met him at that. That was the first WrestleCon, and then didn't go for a few years, and then I don't remember if Dallas was the next one, but it was a case of
Dallas
like
was 3 years later.
3 years later. That sounds about right. I was like, we should go again because this is going to be like the biggest, the biggest crowd and all that shit. So I went to that, and I was just like, fuck, like I can do this. I'm going to go like every year. So that's what I did. Um, I went to New Orleans and went to Tampa, and I went to New York again. And New Orleans was like the best time I've ever had at one of those weekends. And I'd go for like a few days actually. I wasn't in Tampa. I was in Orlando that I went to, and I've met a few different people and stuff there. And I was gonna go to Tampa. Of course, that was cancelled due to the pandemic. And then since then, like financially, it's been a different situation. Also, like I don't really have a desire to go to WrestleMania anymore. Like I feel like I've done that. I more would want to go to like the independents that are running that weekend. Like it's in they're back in New Orleans next year, right? So I was like, I'd like to go there again. And my mom was like, well, you should ask your nephew. And he was like, yeah, I want to go to WrestleMania. And I was like, I don't even really feel like going to WrestleMania. I was like, are you kidding? It's like WrestleMania. And I was like, well, you can go. And then I was reminded that like the tickets are like so much more expensive now. And I was like,
Oh
ah,
yeah, it's like $400 per night for like a shit seat. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, I don't want to do that. I was like, just let me go to Stardom and I'm good. You can do, but I don't even know if that'll happen. My guess is that it probably won't. The idea of traveling to the US right now doesn't sound fun at all.
No, I don't
So
blame you. It
no,
sucks.
but I would love to go back to New Orleans because, like I said, that was a great time. And everyone was super nice. Like for the first day there, I stayed like a little bit of outside of the city, and then I got like an Uber to the city, and the guy that drove me there was like super nice, and he was like, "You don't need to take an Uber anyways. Like, don't get an Uber after this." And he was right because everything was like in the same area, and food was great. And the just like walking around and you could take drinks anywhere was really cool, and no one would like pull you over or anything. You're just like, "Yep, I'm drunk walking down Bourbon Street or somewhere else in New Orleans, and that's fine." And that was cool. Yeah, I had a hell of a time there. So if anyone was thinking about going to WrestleMania, I definitely recommend New Orleans.
I'm not going to be able to afford it, so I will just live vicariously through everybody else going, sadly.
Yeah, I met a few prostitutes that weekend. I didn't realize they were because there's people I met from Nova Scotia were there, and I was going to the Joey Janela show, and like, can we get the Uber with you? And I was like, sure. And then we talked and realized we didn't live that far apart. So anyway, we were on Bourbon Street, and these two women came up, and they were like talking to us, and the other friend that we were with is female, and they were trying to get us to go away, and they're like, well, what about her? And then eventually they just left, and they were like, yeah, I think those were prostitutes. And I was like, what? I had no idea. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Uh, yeah, it's New Orleans is wild. I loved it. I was looking outside one day at the hotel, and they had like a Fox Sports truck out there. And it was like Fox Sports Latin America. And if you remember, Finn Balor's wife hosted like the WWE show or whatever for Latin America. And there was one day I was coming back into the hotel, and I was waiting for the elevator, and she was in there, and her friend, some like other model or something. There's this old couple getting out, and they were very rude. They were very upset, or the woman was, that they were speaking Spanish. Like she was very offended by this, and they just sort of looked at me. And I was like, I don't know. And yeah, they were supposed to get out on the floor, and one of them got out, and the other one didn't. And the door started to close, and she like jumped out of the elevator, and like started crawling on the floor to get out as quickly as she could. Yeah, it was a fun time. So I shared an elevator with Finn Balor's wife. There's a story for you, if that means anything at all.
Uh,
Oh yeah, and
so
I
the
got
first house show I went to as a teenager, I went to Hooters and I passed Matt Stryker in the parking lot, and I
Hmm.
was just like, "Oh, you're Matt Stryker," and he's like, "Yes, I am." And I went, "Yeah, tell
I
Mabel I said hi."
another story from that weekend. I have this shirt that says Muta scale, and it's sort of like blood on a shirt. And like I think again, I was like getting into an elevator, and this old guy was like part of this party or whatever stuff. So he's like, "Well, it's Buddha scale, mate," and he's like pointing at me, and like pointing at my shirt, and like wouldn't leave me alone. And I think this older woman, like I don't know if she slapped him or pulled him away or whatever. Yeah, it's fun times.
I would have just took a gulp of whatever drink I had in my hand, spat it right in his eyes.
It was just like, what the hell is going on here?
Would have done
Like
the little fucking pose afterward too.
he,
I'd
he
have went
wasn't
for it.
he wasn't mean or anything. He was just like, what does this shirt mean?
Oh
And
no, I would. I still would have done it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
yeah.
if he gets a prick or not. You just gotta. Sometimes you just gotta hit him with the mist.
Tell you what wasn't
Uh,
fun was New York the last time when I went during WrestleMania was during a huge rainstorm and my phone died when I was like in the middle of the street and like I couldn't get any cars or anything. Luckily I was able to get one and luckily I was able to get one on the way back, but my phone was like completely dead and coming from House of Glory and then having to go to MSG but having to stop at the hotel and my key didn't work. And then like speed walk to Madison Square Garden, and ended up missing Moot and Liger in the Battle Royal. Of having
it's okay
just
though, because Kenny King needed to win that, not Liger or Muda.
oh yeah, well I had just come from seeing Moot on House of Glory, so I mean I was in the front row for that match, so that was cool. And I met him too, and then I met Stan Hansen there as well, and he was sitting next to JJ Dillon, but I didn't meet him.
Uh,
Yeah,
you ever notice that JJ Dillon now kind of looks like what I would imagine DJ Hyde from CZW is going to look like at that age?
I've never really thought about what DG Hyde would look like.
I saw like a JJ Dillon. Oh, it's in the High Spots Crockett documentary, and I was just like, this motherfucker looks like what I imagine DJ Hyde's going to look like in 20 years. And then at one of the WrestleManias, they did like this fucking dumbass Carney thing where they had Promoter Con, where they were holding a seminar for people that were promoting wrestling shows, and somebody took a picture. There were like four people there, and
Oh
like
yeah,
on some level, why would you want to go to a seminar for fucking learning how to promote wrestling with DJ Hyde as the person in charge?
I no idea.
He's done a tremendous job of fucking killing CZW.
Should just called it Carney Con.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit more honest. And like JJ Dillon worked in the office for the WWF and WCW, so I'm sure he knows. But like, I saw them together and I sent that to my friend. I'm like, hey, look, father and son. They weirdly do look alike. DJ Hyde's like just a fucking dumbass, man. Like, have you ever seen the Vice documentary about Tournament of Death? It's on
I
YouTube.
don't think so.
Yeah, they talk like with DJ and a bunch of people, and like you see Tim Donst, God love him, who everybody thought was gonna be like a big star on the Indies, and then just wasn't because he's one of the Chikara guys. But you see like just all of these fuckers. They pull like a Kenzan out of Jeff Cannonball's head, and it's like the Abdullah Kobayashi video from I think that was actually the tournament where Nick Gage almost died, or
Mm.
technically I guess did die and came back from the dead. But like they put over CZW like so weirdly in that whole fucking thing, and also you see DJ Hyde has like DVDs sitting out, and he has like the data side of the disc just on like the fucking like dresser or whatever, and it's like you stupid motherfucker, put that in a case. And he's talking about like oh, we took out a billboard which is like $1,500 a month, and it's like why? Fucking CZW, this is 2015.
Yeah,
What the fuck are you doing?
I
And
guess.
then there's just like all the sleazy shit he's said, like to women and about women,
Uh,
and licensing out like CZW and WSU footage to a company that did the pay per views, and it was like Double D Divas or whatever. Like, just DJ Hyde, man. What a dumbass. not that CZW was ever going to be a promotion that was going to have like this like storied history or whatever, but like I remember first seeing CZW clips on like LimeWire in like '02, '01, '02. Like famously, I've mentioned I think in the Backyard Wrestling video the Madman Pondo Ian Rotten scissors spot. Like I saw that and I was like, wow, that's fucking disgusting. And like I can see why people who really loved ECW might have gravitated towards that for a couple of years, especially once they started running the arena.
Hmm.
But like that was never going to be a promotion that had like a long lasting impact. Like look at ROH, comes around 3 years later, and like I don't think if Tony Khan bought CZW and put the boots to it the way he's done it to ROH, people would be nearly as upset. So like, and I can prove that because DJ Hyde bought CZW and put the fucking boots to it. Nobody gives a shit. And it's sad because for like a moment in the 2000s, CZW was like a promotion people really liked and cared about, and none of those people give a shit about it anymore.
No.
I was watching Barbed Wire City on YouTube before I went to work the other day, and Tony, the guy who ran strictly ECW, he talked about going to a couple of shows here and there after ECW folded, but like nothing felt the same. And it's like I want a fucking full interview with like those guys, the ones that were like the diehard ECW fans, and when that went away, they were just like, I'm done. Like I think that's a really fascinating mentality because like they really like Tony more than fucking anybody. Like he was the fan that like died on that hill. He ran the website. He led the like grassroots movement to tell the pay per view companies, no, fuck you. You need to carry this. And like he just said, fuck it. I mean, famously, he's in the front row at One Night Stand '06, giving John
Yeah.
Cena the business.
Hmm.
And the last time I watched that show, that was the only thing I could see in that match. Was like he was just going nuts. It was fucking great. Like he's like in the same spot where like a year earlier Mike Johnson was fucking flipping off Mike Awesome, and it's like I watched that match recently on my lunch break while a coworker decided to fucking have a loud phone conversation in the same room because we just don't have like etiquette or respect for other people anymore. And like watching Mike Johnson fucking like act like an asshole and Joey Styles the whole fucking match shit on Mike Awesome. He sold all of us out in our families, your families that weren't being supported because you weren't being paid.
Yeah, that commentary was fucking atrocious.
Yeah, and like they do the thing where like, well, Joey turns and he like shows awesome respect by the end of the match. It's like, no, fuck you. He was a guy who threw away a potentially super lucrative run in All Japan as, and let's be perfectly honest here, the new top foreigner. And fucking, he went to ECW, was promised all this money, and then checks were bouncing, which basically means he wasn't getting fucking paid. What reason do you have to stick around and be loyal at that point? I wouldn't.
Yeah, the way they treated him was horrible, and it's a real kind of disgrace. And what happened eventually, and where his career went after that. It sucks.
And you see the stuff like Bischoff was offering them like cash and was like, let's do a fucking match on TV where I team with Awesome and you team with like Tommy Dreamer and I'll let
Mm.
you pin me. Like basically to get out of like really being in the shit for stealing the fucking ECW champion. And on the Between the Sheets ECW and TNN special, Bix and Zellner both were like, WCW was just spending money pretty freely at this point. If Paul wanted to, he could have got like 10 or 15 million and the company might have been all right.
Yeah,
But that also taking money from WCW would sabotage the fucking relationship he had with Vince. So I'm shrugging so hard right now.
I mean, what a different world it could have been if he did that. I keep thinking about like, what if WCW did survive and you had people like RVD in that promotion, and how would that promotion have been different? Well, I mean, would it have been like what TNA was when they had RVD and Hogan in them and stuff in there and stuff? Like, would it have been like a younger version
Hogan
of
wasn't
that?
going to be part of '01 WCW. Like that ship sailed.
He was going to be there. Wasn't Bischoff going to bring him back?
I remember reading an article with Bischoff that seemed like he'd learned his fucking lesson and that he wasn't going to focus as heavily on guys like Hogan and
Uh,
Savage. But also, that's Bischoff saying it with the benefit of hindsight when the deal was pretty much fucking dead, I think. I might be
yeah,
misremembering. This might have been from later, but like, yeah.
I thought the idea was that they were building. I don't remember any of the TV from that time, but like listening to old shows and stuff, like Brian and Vinny and different shows, is like the idea was that a lot of the main eventers had gone, and the idea is that they were going to bring them all back for the restart. Hogan included, and then they would have new stars as well. But I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just thinking about it incorrectly. But
I know the deal was like all the dudes Steiner fucked up were going to come back, and that was going to be the big program for the summer.
right, yeah, I don't know, but like I have a hard time seeing that Bischoff wouldn't have brought Hogan in. I mean, you know, considering everything since then, but maybe I don't know.
Well, also Bischoff in 2001, in terms of like what he would potentially need to survive, is different than Bischoff in like 2009 when it's like the only way I'm gonna fucking have anything in wrestling is if I do it with Hogan.
Yeah, and you'd also hope like the owners of the company would have had more say in what was going on and would have been like, no, we don't need Hogan and we need to focus on these guys. I mean, who knows? Who knows how it would have turned out?
Yeah, I don't have the utmost confidence, but if the company could have stuck around, then we would have got Mayhem too. And
Uh,
yeah, yeah, that's the thing. It always loops back. Whenever I think of like what WCW could have been, it always fucking loops back around to we would have got that game.
I'm still hoping we get some sort of leaks from that, considering the surprising stuff that's out there. That footage of the like MMA style stuff. Like, I hope there's something else out there.
Yeah, I want to believe, but I also don't
Watching the
know.
size. Yeah, who knows? I mean, it could be like years from now, and someone randomly pops up and is like, "I've got this." If you remember, I did try to talk to some people and get some stuff. That's when I found out they were working on like a. They were talking about like a Las Vegas game. WCW. Oh no, it was after WCW. Sorry, it was before Def Jam. They're talking about like a Las Vegas wrestling game or whatever. But yeah, I didn't go down the whole list of credits and contact everyone, but I was like, I'll try a few people. Unfortunately, didn't get anything through there. That was my attempt at being like an investigative journalist. I was like, I'm gonna get something here, and I never got anything. It made me sad.
It's interesting to look back at like the potential of wrestling games as a whole for that like time period because like man, if only Legends of Wrestling was good.
Yeah, I mean, if ACW had stuck around too, we could have got a that could have been an ECW game. We could have got Mayhem too.
And like
Those are-
even if it were an ECW game, it still wouldn't have been like great. But like an ECW and WCW having PS2 games would be like the craziest fucking alternate timeline to live in.
Yeah,
Like just the idea of like the PlayStation 2 case design with like Mayhem 2, like whatever that cover would have been, or like whatever the in theory the third ECW game, which I don't think anybody's ever tried to do like the rumor of what that game was going to be called or anything. Like there's no backlash Armageddon fucking rumor for that game.
no,
It's just we know that there was a third game in development. ECW went under. They started on a game called Indie Wrestler, which explains basically all of the venues in Legends of Wrestling 1. And then somebody got the idea of like, well, there's all these guys that people know. Why don't we sign them and put a fucking game out?
yeah, and I guess they just kept RVD and Sabu, or maybe they signed new contracts with them at the time. I don't know what the story was.
I want to say the rumor that I read was they signed new deals, which is why they Rob signed on for one game, I guess, because he knew he was going, and then Sabu was like, "Yeah, whatever, I'll sign for as many fucking games as you want," because he's Sabu and really truthfully doesn't seem to give that much of a shit. And that's
I'm
not a
guess
knock on him. It's just, you know,
yeah, I'm guessing the ECW game would still have probably had a like the blood would have been similar to Legends of Wrestling. Like
yeah,
if you remember
that's a
like
pretty safe bet.
the blood would go like I feel like it would cover like the whole mat or some shit at the time. I don't remember too much about it, but I think
The
the
blood
blood
splatters,
was like over
yeah.
the top, yeah.
And there was like a little bit of facial damage too, not nearly as detailed as like what we would get later, but yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. And then there was like the Street Fighter shit after the matches. That was
Yeah,
always a
yeah.
hoot. I just I wish those companies didn't go away. Somebody somewhere will hear this and get mad at me, and I don't care. I wish the Fed was the company that died because I hate the idea of that being the company that won, and I also hate the idea of that being the company that owns the entirety of the modern history of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just eh. I I heard Dave Meltzer gave that Punk and Seth Rollins cage match 4 3/4, and that feels maybe like a sympathy 4 3/4. I watched Revolution. I guess we'll end on this. I know you said you haven't.
Mhm.
That was a tremendous show, and then Moxley and Edge did what I thought they were going to do. They went out and had the flattest fucking match. The finish wasn't what we all thought it was going to be, though. No, Christian fucking cashes in, and then as the fresh man gets choked out by a guy that ate 3 of Edge's finish. And that match going on last felt like such a disservice to a fan base that got the Mariah May Tony Storm match, which was fucking insane. Like brutal, fucking bloody. There's a Taipei death match fucking spot in there too, because why not? Like, what a match. And then you had the Kenny Omega Takeshita match, which was like a very good, very like I don't want to say old school, but kind of like old school focus on a body part kind of like match that it wasn't quite the epic, I guess some people thought, but I thought great match. And Kenny did the Bret Hart 95 special, which is you beat somebody by rolling them up,
Mm.
which I thought was cool. And then Osprey and Kyle Fletcher did every move in the history of professional wrestling. They both bled. They did a Spanish fly off the top of the cage, like a million moves. Amazing fucking match. Like one of those matches that psychologically probably doesn't give you a whole lot beyond like just constant like stimuli because stuff's happening. But like you can't knock the grotesque amount of like physical effort and athletic ability it takes to do the shit that they were doing in that match. Like that was an incredible fucking match. And
That was
then
Momo and Mercedes.
the best Mercedes match in AEW by a fucking mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, Momo apparently hurt her ankle in that match, and Mercedes got hurt too. There are a bunch of people banged up after that show.
She,
Um,
she must have got too hurt because she worked Stardom the other day.
apparently she was like on crutches or whatever, and they thought she might have hurt her ankle a little bit.
Huh.
Um, but yeah, that match was wonderful. But the main event, it was like I said, I think to Rudo Reels, like Rudo Reels posted like about the scenario everybody thought with like Edge and Christian, and I was like, or Moxley takes all of his shit and wins flatter than pissed. And then after the match, I replied to that post with, "Well, would you look at that?"
Do you
Because
think
like
like what do you think about this rematch? Do you think like it'll be like a lesson learned or it's just gonna be the same old shit?
it's gonna be the same old shit. Moxley's gonna win
Yeah.
because I guess Osprey on Wednesday night said he wants to win the Owen and challenge for the belt in Dallas,
Mm.
and it feels really weird to do the Owen right after you do this stupid little mini tournament to see who faces Kenny at Dynasty.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna say it. Speedball Mike Bailey sucks, and bringing him in and immediately putting him over fucking Beast Mordos also sucks. Um, Beast Mordos should not be doing jobs. Beast Mordos should in fact be the champion, like of every title that AEW has, all of them. And instead, every time I see, like, anytime I see a graphic, it's like, oh, he's losing.
Well, he's doing a gimmick now where he's attracted to hologram. So he's like a
Oh,
female version of his enemy.
well, I don't necessarily blame him. I will say that. Um,
No, but it's like maybe he's attracted to hologram after all. I don't know. Um,
that would be something. I heard FTR versus Strong and O'Reilly was a good match last night. I spent last night watching Abdullah the Butcher matches in ECW. So in other words, it was a Saturday night.
I didn't see it. The venue looked cool though, from what I saw.
I looked on Blue Sky and I saw a thing where Moxley did the Seth Rollins stomp and like walked out like a fucking hunchback from the arena. And
Mm.
like I say it every week, he is the worst wrestler ever. He sucks. There are no redeeming qualities to him. He is proof that bald people are not good wrestlers unless they're Steve Austin or Abdullah the Butcher or Kurt Angle or uh, Killer Khan. He was bald. But these guys all have the energy of somebody that has a full head of hair. Moxley,
Kenji
even when he
Moto.
had hair, just had the. Well, again, he has like extreme, like full head of hair energy, even though, his hair started to betray him at one point.
That's true.
I'm just saying, like, Moxley had the energy of just a bald fucking loser, even when he had hair.
Yeah, I
And is that
mean,
really somebody you should have your world title on?
I liked him a few years ago when he was having some really good matches, but this whole Death Riders run has been quite awful.
Maybe this is him doing some 4D chess to where, like, on the contract renewals, WWE will just be like, no, we don't want you. And Tony will still be enough of a mark to give him a pay raise despite the incredible, irreparable damage John Moxley is doing to attendances and TV ratings.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think.
I also thought it was interesting. This being the first AEW pay per view in a while that did like a respectable number, we fucking had like in the Observer on Friday, Dave had the fucking number 135 to 140,000, and it's like that's interesting. Hey, why don't we have the number for like the last four?
Mm,
Because they fucking didn't do well. Because
yeah.
maybe maybe people saw what was coming, so they didn't buy Wrestle Dream, and then the next two after that. I mean, I bought World's End because I wanted to see because I knew Okada Osprey was going to be the fucking final, and what a shock! The match was awesome. But it's so like Swerve's challenging Moxley for the belt at Dynasty. And the actual correct move is Swerve kills him fucking dead in the middle of the ring. Not literally, although that would be a bonus. Um, and you do Swerve and Osprey the rematch at All In because the match they had last year was great. That was a tremendous match. But I don't. Tony has never pivoted. Tony has never shown any sort of ability to deviate from his plan. So like I'm assuming Swerve gets beat flat, just flatter than a plate full of piss, as I think Cornette said about beating Patriot in 1997. And then like Double or Nothing's Anarchy in the Arena, so Death Riders are probably going to win that too. There will probably be a Blood and Guts in June because there's no pay per view, so they'll probably win that too.
Oh
And then
no.
Moxley will
No.
lose at fucking. Moxley will lose it All In, but he'll do the shittiest fucking job imaginable. Because do you remember the match where MJF beat him for the belt?
No.
I just remember at the end of it because they had the match 2 years earlier on All Out during the pandemic, and it was like surprisingly not awful. The title change with those two was fucking terrible. Moxley walked to the ring like he didn't want to fucking be there. Had the most obvious case of job face that I've seen, like post Shawn Michaels, and he did absolutely nothing to put Max over in that match, which is also probably a little bit why Max's title reign was so flat because he had nothing coming. Like the Regal shit happened too. Like that whole scenario fucked that title reign from the jump. It doesn't excuse that reign for being horrible, but like, yeah, fucking John sure did a great job of fucking setting that one off. And he's gonna do that when he loses to Osprey too. I'm not dumb. Or if he loses to Swerve in April. Either way, when he loses that belt, he's going to do the shittiest fucking job possible, and he will be back in Tony's ear immediately. Like, see, told you I shouldn't have lost the belt. It doesn't matter. Like that's what happens in this company is people get Tony's ear and they fucking convince him that they need to be prominently featured on television despite basically the entire fan base going, please stop with this fucking shit. That's why Jericho's still on TV.
Mm.
And I can't imagine fucking caring anymore. Ask me in a month if I bought my plane ticket to fucking Dallas, or if me and my friend are just gonna fucking meet up and hang out somewhere this year, because it's starting to look a little more fucking likely. But also, like, if they announce Okada versus Kenny, like, that plane ticket's getting bought. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I don't know, but not exciting times in the world of professional wrestling unless you collect action figures, or you have hope that Ultra Pro is going to be a good game, or you have access to like Extreme Wrestling tournaments or archives so you can watch actual good wrestling. Oh, Hiroki Goto versus Yuji Nagata. That was good too. That was a reminder of what New Japan used to be like when it was actually good.
Yeah, I need to finish that Stardom show because Konami and Starlight Kid is the main event, and Konami spray paints her mask, her white mask black, and then Starlight Kid is like bleeding from like the mouth or like the nose, and she posted a picture of the inside of the mask, and there's like it's got like a Joker smile smeared with blood on both sides of the mouth. Look crazy.
I just saw a post on Instagram of somebody doing the plastic bag thing with a Moxley figure and a Bryan figure, and my day's been
Uh,
ruined.
oh,
Why did Eddie Kingston not like? Why did he get the no for that? But like Moxley got to do it like 2 times.
I don't
That
know. Maybe
sucks.
maybe Tony's scared of him. I don't know.
But he lost on points in a jiu-jitsu tournament to a guy that looked like he just got off his shift at fucking Red Lobster.
Yeah,
Come
but
on now.
Tony would lose to him twice.
Probably. But Tony's dad's an auto parts billionaire. He could literally just find somebody who's like a white belt in jiu-jitsu on their third day of class and just have them be your bodyguard. Nobody in that locker room could fuck with you except Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin and
Yeah, I
MVP.
don't know.
Nobody else in that locker room can fight. We we have evidence of this over the last few couple years. Like, nobody in that locker room can actually fight. They all want to act tough, and then Samoa Joe's got to separate everybody like a bunch of squabbling goddamn toddlers. And isn't that just a wonderful way to live? Oh, I hope Joe's being paid 7 figures a year. He deserves it.
Yeah,
That guy rules. He's always ruled. Um, just as the programming note, because I think this is probably going to wrap us up, because I'm hungry. Uh, we're not going to be recording next week. For some reason, I have Saturday off, but not Sunday. So we'll be back on what is that going to be, the 30th. I will have that day off. And we'll record, and I can talk about pre-ordering the Zombie Sailor figures. And I'm sure with it being a 2 week news break, or 2 week break, there's not going to be a ton of news. I say famous last words.
yeah.
Maybe in terms of the wrestling figure world, there will be a lot, because there was kind of a lot this week.
There'll probably be like a shit ton of stuff that happens just after we're finished here.
Oh, like last week when we discovered the fucking Mitch Jake Roberts render video showing off all 4 of the Jake figures.
Yeah,
That was fun. That was nice. But I'm thinking at some point in April we'll get back to doing not regular videos with like an actual theme, but there's games I want to discuss, and or just like matches or pay-per-views or something I would want to discuss. There's a lot that we could do. Um, oh, also, I got Absolute Batman #4, which meant I got to read issues 4 and 5. 6 didn't come in at the comic shop this week for some reason, which I don't fucking know what's going on there. But yeah, Absolute Batman. It's a very good book. I think the trade covering I think the first 6 issues, that trade comes out in August. I would recommend everybody buy it. Um, Completely different take on Batman than what you're used to. He's also fucking gigantic and he's awesome. So yeah, that was like, I read that, and I read Assorted Crisis Events by Dennis Camp. That's a fun book. Um, and I also read Sam and Twitch Case Files because I was like, oh, Image does a lot of like really good like crime noir type stuff. And then I saw the script was done by Todd McFarlane, and I was like, oh boy, I bet I know what's going to happen here. And it did. I like Todd. He's like one of the greatest comic artists of all time. He's made a lot of really great action figures. He's responsible in part with the others for Image Comics. That guy not great at writing comics. But it's also he's not great at writing comics in a way that it's almost kind of like charming. Like this dude's writing style has not really evolved that much in 35 years.
Yeah.
You read Spider-Man #1, you read Spawn 361. Not a not a lot of differences in terms of he's gotten better at pacing certain aspects or whatever, but like that writing quality has not improved. But yeah, unless you have something to add, I'm good.
Um, Nothing comes off the top of my head. I mean, there was that. Did you see that Allstate commercial, the Batman one?
No.
Oh, there's like it seems like it should have been for the Super Bowl, and maybe it wasn't ready. But there's like Jason Bateman, Batman, Allstate. Was it Allstate? Yeah, I think so. And it's got like it's kind of crazy because it's got like the cool looking Batman design from what you can see. There's a Batmobile that looks really cool. The Joker is like the most accurate Joker that's ever been on screen. And then the Riddler, Two Face, and Poison Ivy are a bit goofy, but like everyone's been raving about that commercial and saying the guy that plays the Joker should play the Joker in the new universe, but without seeing him act. So you know what people are like when it comes to that stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was
I haven't watched like a lot of TV lately. I got into like just sitting down. Like last Wednesday, I got like 13 single issues or whatever at the comic shop, and I got really into just like sitting down and just reading a bunch lately.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like
This
it's funny because I ordered a whole bunch of stuff on Comic Hub, and now I'm sitting here like I've kind of burned myself out a little bit on reading, and I have all of this shit coming in over the next like 2 months. Uh, Fun times.
indeed.
Shout outs to the Batman, but that'll do us for this week. I had a new wrinkle I wanted to put on the outro of this, and I'll be god damned if I could remember it. So until next time, so like 2 weeks. Hopefully hopefully nothing bad happens to either of us between now and then. But yeah, 2 weeks from now we'll see you. Take care. Don't be an asshole. The hell with right wingers. Fuck the federal government or the people, or fuck what they're doing to the federal government to be more accurate. And don't be an asshole. And also, fuck the administration.